So hey guys, this is your favorite fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was a child of death god and awakens over Fox ability. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. Naruto, Sasuke. Two attacks of unimaginable power collided with each other, then unnatural white light consumed all. When Naruto opened his eyes he saw only darkness. Suddenly a green fires appeared, showing a corridor made from some black stone. He followed the lead until the end. It led him to a large room where on the throne sat a figure in the white robes. "Ah, my little child, you finally came here, and alive no less." "Alive?" asked Naruto. "What do you mean?" "I mean that you are in Shinigami's domain, in my domain." Finally Naruto managed to see who was speaking to him. A demonical face, purple skin and strange-looking Tonto, just like humans imaged him. The Shinigami himself was right before his eyes. Some part of Naruto's brain noted that he was only living person who can tell that. "You have a strong mind, my child. Not many can take it so calmly, that they are standing in front of God of Death himself, I mean. But why I decided to bring you here? Simple. I need your services in one delicate matter." Naruto raised his brow. "And what kind of help need a god of death?" Shinigami sighed. "You see, child, I had a deal with certain mortal. In return for my services, he promised me his soul, but he tricked me and escaped to another world." "And where I came to this shit?" asked Naruto. "You was there from the beginning. The one who made a deal was your father, Minato Namikaze." Naruto gasped in shock. "You mean my own father? Sealed Biju in you and managed to not pay a price?" "Yes, he did. But I can give you a chance for revenge. I will genetically modify your body with Kyuubi's dark half, which your father left here while he escaped. It will turn you into a lycanthrope, only you will look as an anthropomorphic Kyuubi. You will be immune to the silver weapons, and your body will be as hard as Kyuubi's. If everything will go according to the plan, you will have an additional training from the peel of that world and from your little furry friend." "But what about Ko?" started Naruto, when Shinigami raised his hand. By his will the space before them twisted and showed Konoha, and Naruto saw the happy civilians and shinobi, before Shinigami asked him, "Do you know what are they celebrating?" "No, your death." At those words Naruto felt like his world started to crumble. "Of course, if you take my deal, you will have a chance for revenge upon them too." Quote. What? I didn't hear. "I said, deal. That was a start for my great adventure. I remember, when I came to that world in my Fox form, I was found by Lord Scott. He belonged to organization known as Beowolf, hordes of werewolves united by one goal, war. They were considered the best warriors of that world and still are. So they sold their blades and served as mercenaries. That was something that I did as ninja, so there wasn't much change in my life. However, Lord Scott had a bit of personal agenda behind his noble deed. You see, Beowolves usually fought in pairs, one quick member and one heavy hitter. His sole grandson Angel Anji Arvananto was 12 years old, fastest of his generation and still without partner. Usually partners are picked in 4 years age, but there wasn't anybody strong enough to be an equal to Anji's monstrous speed. At my first moments in Griviga, later I found it was the world's name. First who I met was bandits. So Lord Scott found me in the center of slaughter that I made. He needed someone strong, young and with skills to work in team, and he found me, a boy with no family bonds except my bastard of a father, no one to manipulate him or somebody to try and gain through him, a perfection in a way. Before I met Anji I thought that Haku was the most feminine looking boy I would ever met. Before Anji, I mean seriously, he looked nearly like Hinata, especially the haircut. But that didn't mean anything to me. We trained, we fought and we enjoyed life together. Until that fateful day when we turned 15. The day of challenge or the coming of age ceremony. Usually it happens in Norska, the lands of ice and blizzards, where only fittest will survive. There were 10 of us, young, confident and powerful. Only 2 returned. Nearly all decided to go in pairs, but me and Anji allied ourselves with other pair Graham and Argus. It happened on our 5th day in frozen tundra. We met a strange beast. It looked like it suffered some kind of disease. Before we could do anything it wounded Graham, and vanished without trace. Anji was a second victim of this lands. He felt weaker and weaker until he couldn't stood anymore. Argus was tired but he tried to look confident. Strangely only I was healthy enough it was painful to move, but pain was my companion. Through all my life and after every step I made, I felt more and more easy and powerful. One day I returned, only to find Graham fully transformed and red from Argus, blood. After that I remembered on. Lee my roar when I transformed and something wet, warm and red on my hands. I don't remember how I found Watchers, I don't remember how I managed to save Angie, but it wasn't the worst. When we return, we found that our kingdom is endangered by magic plague, a disease originated from wastelands, where the great cataclysm happened. Many our brothers fell to that disease, turning into despicable monsters. After 3 years of struggle we decided that we need a new place to settle down. Our choice was Tristan, a kingdom on north reigned by young queen, by the name Henrietta, and completely consumed by civil war. We needed refuge. She needed loyal and skillful warriors. A deal that was beneficial to both sides. I remember how me and Angie led our people into battle, how enemies' forces were consumed by fear. When black and white generals appeared on battlefield, our win was nearly inevitable. Only thing that got on my nerves were Agnes and Aldrich, twins who commanded Henrietta's all-female bodyguards corps. At night before the final battle I found that they were just Tsunere, a very pleasurable discovery. Angie became Queen's consort. When she found out about our wild side, we thought that she would freak out. But she cuddled him like a puppy. Couldn't blame her. He is big, white and fluffy, a definition of girls' cute things. Several months everything was right, but then a delegation of witches from Kunshan arrived. Kunshan, one of the 4 columns of magic in this world, created by witches who were the main supporters of the Emperor of Island Empire. I had nothing against them, for they are one of the main opponents of Alnus Empire. Why I hate Alnus Empire so much? 15 years ago their emperor died, leaving no male heir behind. South Empire was on the verge of civil war. Many wanted the crown and young beautiful princess, until one young general killed or blackmailed others and finally became an emperor. He also started a big harem to marry different women and create a political shield. Through this, you ask what's the problem? He came out of nowhere, made a fast career, from soldier to general just into 3 years, and he was blonde. As you already understood, it was my father. So now I'm a big brother for a bunch of younger sisters. Karma is a bitch after all. He hadn't any sons. Anyway, witches arrived to congratulate their old ally, to whom they didn't give any help, and to investigate the magical plague. They thought that there were ill ones with latent disease among us. I need to explain that witches also like to organize wars against their great evil, read political opponents. They also had an habit to hire the best of the best. Add to this their fascination with feminine boys and hatred to brutes, and an habit to delay our paychecks. A passionate love was inevitable on both sides. We managed to hide the fact that Angie was on squad where first mutated were, but on the other hand, I sensed their fear of me, so I understood resist them more. Another war will be upon us, a war which we were unprepared for. So I and Angie created a plan. He sends me to Anorska to find a source of disease or intervention of a third party. Basically we gave them a card blanche, and we waited for them to use it. Several months has passed since I went to Norska alone in this white wasteland. I tried to understand where I failed and how to prevail over the wretched witches. For months I searched the land of Norska and never found the corrupted land, a clear sign of magical plague, which led me to another more terrifying answer. It was a trap all along, made for the future leaders of beowolves. Most of the younger clan heads died that day, others perished in plague war. It didn't matter that beowolves survived their refuges in Kingdu. Witches ruled by witches from shadows. I needed to solve this problem, and solution came in most extravagant shape. It resembled an altar or place of power and was located in the ruins of Old Tower. With first step I understood that place somehow answered to my presence. With blue flash of energy everything exploded, and then there was only darkness. Naruto slowly raised his head. His sight was still blurry, but at least he could see. And found himself face to face with gray, ugly, gremlin-like creature. And then something happened that surprised him to nearly impossible level. The creature raised his hands and screamed, "You miserable pieces of garbage, browns, greens, reds, blues. Get over here." The power of the netherworld had chosen us a new master. Several hours later. "So, Gnarl, is it?" asked Naruto. "Yes, master. And you are our new overlord." 5th to be exact. Naruto raised a brow. 5th. And what happened to the other 4? Gnarl smiled, showing the rows of sharp fangs. Why? Oh, you must be wary about the 3rd and 2nd. You see, sire, when Dark Tower was besieged, the 2nd lost his body, and possessed a body of an old wizard, a leader of the group of heroes, who destroyed and looted his tower. He lost his body due to the efforts of the 8th hero, and he lost his crown to him also, during the Minion Civil War, when he returned and tried to reclaim position of the Overlord from 8th hero, who he turned into his successor. Gnarl made a pause and continued, and of course the 3rd Overlord himself, who is imprisoned inside of Abyss Hell. Thought he is imprisoned the he rules over Abyss and is extremely powerful, and of course you should be aware of the previous candidate for the post of Overlord. Naruto was surprised. There was somebody before me. Gnarl chuckled. Several actually. And then suddenly his face became serious and his eyes filled with hate. But only one was insane enough to make a 2nd-grade cataclysm. He actually looked a lot like you and was from the line of Overlords. The descendant of the 4th actually, and you know what that idiot did? Gnarl raised his hand, looking like he waited to hear Naruto question him, but continued nonetheless. He tried to erase all evil from the world using the Tower Heart. Naive and idealistic fool, only in darkness light can be seen. Idiot, commented Naruto. Yes, but it wasn't the worst thing. The Tower Heart exploded and the 2nd-grade cataclysm happened. Even though most of the energy was scattered through the place now known as Wastelands now, he still managed to absorb some power. It made him stronger and more powerful than any human. When did it happen actually? Asked Naruto. It happened more than 18 years ago, replied Gnarl. And last time we checked he was making career in Alnis Empire army. The power in him slowly pushed him to positions of power, but the problem lies in it. He cannot control its corruptive tendencies. Use it, yes. Control, no. He will need more power, more gold, more women, more lands, until he wouldn't misstep or find someone who is more stronger than him, and that someone will put an end to his miserable existence. And the name of this man? After Gnarl's speech, Naruto's voice sounded somehow strange. Name, if I remember clearly his name started with M, mused Gnarl. Quote. What did you say, sire? Minato. Yes, sire, it was. Sire. He cannot do a shit without fucking up. That bastard father of mine. Hours later. So, Gnarl, report me our overall situation. Gnarl scrubbed the back of his head. Actually everything isn't so bad, sire. Weaponry of your predecessor is still in your possession and in perfect condition, but all our totems and tower objects are lost to us. Thankfully infernal armor of the 4th Overlord still can be used. We can remodel it a bit, according to your tastes, sire. Also, unlike other times, we still have all our hives and number of your minions reached several thousands. Naruto scrubbed his chin. Good. The lack of magic will not be so dangerous with ninja techniques I have, with my body infused with demonic power and super speed regeneration and also vast chakra reserves. Lack of magical and health totems will not be so critical, but the lack of minions. Gnarl coughed several times, getting his master's attention. That's why I told you about infernal armor, sire. Infernal helmet will grant you a bare minimum of the horde, 5 minions. They will help you in attaining the tower objects. Naruto smiled. Perfect. And tower condition. Everything is a bit dusty, but still in one piece. We will clean everything soon, and when you find yourself a mistress or 2, or 3, or more, we will redecorate the tower according their wishes. That's actually not bad at all. Also, I want the infernal armor to get more protection for arms and legs, like the 3rd had, and found me a black stylish cape. Several months later. It's been several months after Naruto received his new improved infernal armor. 5 browns clad in black, minions armor followed him. For past months Naruto managed to know Kyuubi's name and reach a full Biju mode. 2 days ago Gnarl managed to find a strange signature that was recognized by Gnarl as spell catalysts. So right now Gnarl and Naruto argued about should or should they not go there to acquire the tower objects. Gnarl, please try to understand that with only 5 minions to command I wouldn't achieve a lot of success there. Just imagine this, I found all tower objects but without proper minion horde I wouldn't be able to transport them. Gnarl sighed. I am completely aware of this, sire, yet you have to go. With so many spell catalysts together, sooner or later they will resonate. After that they could be found by anyone, not only us. He closed his eyes for a moment. But it isn't the worst, sire. After they started to resonate, Tower will resonate too, and it wouldn't be long after that when hordes of adventurers, heroes and explorers will come here trying to destroy our dark safe pit. Well, if you put it like that, then I must go. Mountains of Firclass. Mountain regions of Firclass were always a sight to see. Before the Great Exodus it was one of the most expensive touristic camps, but after the Exodus different kinds and tribes of trolls made this region their home, due to their habit to capture humans. And the fact that region was filled with Amani, trolls from WoW, usual trolls and mountain trolls or their other relatives, see Frederick K. T. Anderson's artwork on Elfwood to get the idea. Other dangers like saber-toothed tigers or manticores weren't such a problem. At least Naruto could feel that the artifacts were near the dark gates. 1, 2, 1, 2, checking. Sire, can you hear me? Said Gnarl's voice in his head. Hey, hey, replied both Kurama and Naruto. What is it, sire? Lord Kurama. Kurama growled. It's a bit too crowded here even without you, shrimp. Quiet it, you two, I think I can hear something. While Gnarl and Kurama were arguing with each other, Naruto didn't stop walking. He slowly reached their point of destination only to whistle at the sight before him. I'm so understanding you, Naruto. And so envious of you. Before them laid a rather young, judging by her height, which was barely above a mountain troll, her long green hair covered at least half of the valley where she laid on her back, and counting that she was completely naked, Naruto had a good view over her body. It's also needed to be added that female mountain and ordinary trolls are extreme Ly and exotically beautiful in their young age. She slowly raised her hand looking to the sun through the little blue orb. Several long minutes later, Gnarl, Naruto and Kurama, with unimaginable amount of willpower, managed to blink several times and remember their goal, and slowly managed to understand. Hot Chick was still near, that blue orb in her hand and several near her lost tower objects. At this point Naruto decided to interfere. He slowly moved to her long pointed ears and said, you know these aren't yours. Meldy the mountain troll wasn't mean or crude, but like any young troll she tends to be stubborn and sometimes childish. Well, now they are mine, and do you know why? Because I'm bigger. Naruto just smirked and with bright flash entered Biju mode. Am I big enough now? Meld. Wise lion. Like tail started to move from one side to other very quickly. Sire, mountain trolls found extremely appealing everyone who is bigger than them since they are one of the largest species of this world. Everyone who is bigger than them are either extremely rare or extinct, like titans for example. Nobody had seen them since they went into their slumber. Thanks, Gnarl. Replied Naruto. Oi, girl. Eyes here. Girl. Meldy. My name is Meldy, replied she. Okay. Meldy, could you please stop looking at my lower regions, raise your head a bit and look me into the eyes. She didn't move her head, but Naruto could bet that she was smiling. Yes, I can, but don't wanna, replied she and laughed. Naruto face palmed. How about this? Said Meldy, you can have the orbs, but after we play a bit. Naruto showed Kurama's trademark grin. I like this kind of games. Alnus Empire. Minato was fighting his most dreadful opponent who for nearly 20 years was his bane, paperwork. So first wave of earthquakes just destroyed the mountain of already done paperwork. Suddenly doors burst open and Marius, his first advisor, burst into room. My emperor, we need to get out of the palace right now. Minato raised the eyebrow. What's the matter, Marius? Hey, stop pushing me, Marius replied while pushing him in the back. Faster, sire. We already evacuated everyone, you need to get out. Confession. Central Sectorum. Witch's HQ was also in state of temporal chaos. What's the amplitude? Is that natural? The voice of the Ribella, the head witch, was only constant in that chaos. It is not natural. The amplitude is too rhythmical, and power raises from one earthquake to other. It also seems like thrusts. Netherworld Tower. Master. Faster. Master. Faster. Master. Faster, master, faster. Shouts of the minions were so loud that it seems like they were heard on the surface. 24 hours later, Netherworld Tower. Naruto stepped out from portal, greeted by horde of his loyal minions and grinning Gnarl. I must say, sire, It counts as personal record. None of your forefathers managed to do something like what you did. Naruto growled. Gnarl, my personal live isn't an object for records or other public activities. It's mine and mine alone, got it? Gnarl smiled, showing rows of sharp fangs. Absolutely, sire. But I must add that we managed to locate a strange magical anomaly near the place where you found a netherworld gates. You have an assumption of what it is? Gnarl shook his head. I don't think so, sire. Whatever it is, it's something rather unusual. Netherworld gates of Norska region. Naruto understood that something isn't right the moment he stepped out from the gates. Well, usually large craters didn't appear randomly, trying to figure the reason of such land change. Naruto went down to the center of the crater. A slight golden glow got his attention. Naruto kneeled, grabbed the object and pulled out a scroll. Shouted Naruto, glancing over the object in his hand. Sheesh. Let's see what it contains. When Naruto opened a scroll, he saw strange symbols. Moment later they glowed, and after bright flash Naruto felt a cold air washing over him. That was my first encounter with an Elder Scroll. As Parthenax, the dragon who I met on the mountain where I appeared, told me, Elder Scroll is a physical manifestation of the gods, wisdom and power. It wasn't as crazy as me being Dragonborn. Seriously, that freaked me out, and gave me a lot of disturbing thoughts about my ancestors' personal lives, before Greybeards told me the meaning of the title. If my father came from Overlord bloodline, then the Dragonborn one came from my mother. By the way, what at that moment I knew about my mother? Nothing. So I decided to not look the gifted horse in the mouth and just have fun. After all, with Elder Scroll I could return to the same moment I left, and new powers will come in handy. My bastard of a father was after all a man who slaughtered armies by himself, so I needed everything I could get. I wouldn't tell you about my adventures there. When I look back at them, they look rather boring. I mean, get there, kill the dude, get out, that type of adventures I had. But results were rather upsetting. Surely I received several Daedrical weapons and artifacts. I defeated Alduin, but I couldn't devour his soul, and my evil sense, which I got after becoming the Overlord, was in state of constant work. It always sensed the spirit of Alduin somewhere near me, and that was getting on my nerves. My only adventure that ended with nearly total success was my fight with Mirak. I became the strongest Dragonborn who ever lived, at least at that time period, with power to bend the dragons to my will and call upon my dragon's blood to empower myself in battle. Yet I made several enemies alongside Alduin. There was Delphine, the Grand Master of the Blades, who was enraged by my decision to not kill Parthenax, Hermaeus Mora, who wanted soul for his collection, and of course Ulfric the Stormcloak. For our duel started the chain of events which nearly doomed several worlds. Windhelm. Ulfric's throne room. Naruto, clad in Mirak's outfit, looked at the man Who sat upon his throne and was looking at him from his high place. Finally, started Ulfric, you decided to grace me with your presence. A hero who is hailed across Skyrim as Dragonslayer, but also wears the clothes of Dragon Priest. A hero who saved Tamriel from vampires' clutches, yet calls several from their kin his friends. A hero who is called Daedra Hater, but also bargains with them to have more power. You, my young friend, is the most unpredictable person I know, and only one who can stop me from reaching the position of High King. Therefore, he stood up and unsheathed his sword. You need to die. Naruto didn't say anything. He rose up, the warlock, the only sword he took from his armory. His hand charged forward. Ulfric blocked the first strike but felt how his right arm went numb for several moments. Young Dragonborn had monstrous power. With wide swing, Naruto chunked Ulfric's sword from his hands. Armless, but not powerless, Ulfric called upon his greatest weapon, Thuum. Thunder Voice, which served him greatly in his duel against late High King. But Naruto was already prepared. He breathed in, preparing a Thuum of his own. Two warriors, Dragonborn and the Tongue, faced each other in the duel of the voice, both of them calling upon the same basic Thuum. Fus. Ro. Da. Two power waves summoned by Ulfric and Naruto clashed between the warriors. Neither of them wanted to give up, but slowly, little by little, Dragonborn's shouts started to overpower Ulfric's, and last one finally shattered his Thuum, the shockwave from which drove Ulfric into his own throne, after dragging him through entire room. The right half of his face was covered in blood, his arms were broken, and shifted in weird angles, but judging by his breathing he was still alive. Naruto Rai, said Mirak's demonic sword to finish what he started. He breathed out and moved the sword. Sword was stopped by strange katana. Like sword, and when Naruto moved his gaze from Ulfric's broken body he met an angry gaze of two blue eyes. Delphine, looks like you took my refuse to kill Paarthurnax a bit too close to your heart. Delphine growled but still managed to grab Ulfric and jump away from Naruto. And where do you think you are going? The palace is surrounded. Ulfric is beaten nearly to death. Without proper medical treatment, which you couldn't get, he will die. Delphina smirked. Esbern. Now, what happened next could only be foreseen by Akatosh himself or Hermaeus Mora, for time, space, knowledge and fate are their domains. Esbern, who was hiding behind the pillar, stepped to the light with an elder scroll. He opened it and then everything went really crazy. Naruto leapt forward trying to reach them, but his grabbed only air. Naruto fell to his knees, still seeing the SMI. King face of Delphine before his eyes. He screamed and cursed her, but instead of human curses something else entirely left his lips. Dur hi Delphine, all slen lever now hin keth, fiat hi los mot nalos. Zuu fen sieve hi, ahrk hi fen grosso tal hi lost keen. Tal zuu vot, curse you Delphine, may flesh rot on your bones, while you are still alive. I will find you, and you will regret that you were born. That I swear. The palace started to shake and crumble, and as his final act Naruto used his power to rip a space and time continuum teleporting himself to random location. Throat of the world. When Naruto returned to his senses, first thing he felt was cold, then when he rose to his legs and understood where he was, he heard wings clapping and small earthquake. Then a tired voice of the old dragon said, Atruk Vuldic Ko Hai. Goron Gain, News Zuu Knees Fun Fa Prus UV Fa Voles. Something changed in you, young one, but I can't tell for better or for worse. Naruto turned to his mento. Arin replied. Anakaan lost Ozid Ken Dii Mindopa, Gazuu on Einzuk Mindoron Tal Ov Nix Zahrk July Los Vokorasal. Wisdom has a bitter taste, my mentor, yet I once again understand that trust between me and humans is impossible. Naruto could bet that if Paarthurnax could, he would have smiled. Fine Kuz Barlaws Nol Dar Wathdova, Dre ni Mayad July Rem harshly, Lost Heini Kosan Hindo El Hun Ahrk Saviak Zime Pa Kazal. Lost Heini Walon Yun Ragnavir Ko Vomidas Dokal. Ahrk Delphine. Rek Nunan Lani Ko Ustid Kolos Ek Nunan Kryzi Lost Faliel. Ahrk Aaz Lost Ni Pogik. Then take an advice from this old dragon. Do not judge humanity too harshly. Have you not been hailed as a hero and savior through all Skyrim? Have you not created a new family in different guilds? And Delphine, she just lived in past where her only opponents were elves and mercy was not an option. Naruto smiled and replied. Ahrk on Einzuk Hai Los Vilt, Onik Gain, Zuu Nalkan Fun Pa Wo Prog Wa Mindok Tal Zuu Los Mot Nalos. News Dar Los Unlot Tinvok Fa Vamindok Zodiad Dutid. Dre Hai Lon Wa Fun Zay Atruk. And once again you are right, wise one, I already told everyone who needs to know that I am still alive. But this is our last discussion for an unknown period of time. Do you want to tell me something? Paarthurnax once again did that strange expression, that Naruto characterized as smile. Bar Lok Fa Hai, Dii Prostiak. Ahrk Damon Wan Mil Lost Volzaken Ko Muz Nidro Ni Hinderon. Clear sky for you, my student, and remember, if woman has a bad taste in men it's not your problem. Naruto nodded and once again opened the scroll. Netherworld gates of Norska region. He returned to the same moment when he traveled to Skyrim, even his traces still on the same place, with a move of his hand wind destroyed the evidence of him being there. Netherworld Tower. Naruto stood in his personal chambers while minions were clothing him into his armor. Here sire, said Narl Ying a new armored glove for his right hand. This glove is magically linked to Arsenal. While you wear it, you have an instant access to your armory, which will let you change weapons right at the battlefield. Or any other place, and by the rumors from spawning pools, Alnis Apire wanted to start a war. Naruto raised a brow. When they are facing the threat of civil war. Narl smiled. That isn't a war, like you think, sire. More like reconnaissance by fire. As you know, unrest started from despising the people from Zarkania, one of imperial provinces, so Emperor decided that they need a little glorious war. And decided to attack Tristan, which is still weak from civil war. How will it end the unrest? Asked Naruto. He made Siegfried the ever-glorious, who is from Zarkania, the leader of the army. After his victory he will be appointed as Hero of Empire, the highest reward in Alnus ever known for years of Empire's existence. No one was gifted such a title for a really long period of time, I might add. It will ease the civil unrest. Prusa mu los ko dil drof, wan full. Well, we are in deep shit, if so, cursed Naruto. Not so fast, sire, and please, I know, when you can. Curse freely on foreign language, it is really cool and nobody could catch you on improper behavior, but using words of power for this is simply such a waste. For a while he ended his lecture and continued. As you know, the Beowolves HQ is still in Tristan. Even if rumors about elves in Siegfried's army are true, they need just one thing to guarantee the victory of Tristan. And what is that? Some glorious hero? Asked Naruto. No, sire. Gnarl turned his back to him, and went to chest near the wall. He opened it and took something from it, then turned back to Naruto. They need a dark one. In his hands was the cloak and dark crown. Naruto raised a brow. What's so special about the cloak? Gnarl smirked. Remember I told you about the crimson mantle? Well, same perks, just more stylish. And he put a crown upon Naruto's head. Remember, that cruelty suits Dark Overlord, and therefore it suits you, sire. Naruto materialized Warlock in his hand and made a swing. Gnarl start to expand the territory of our domain. In Underworld, Gnarl bowed. And where will you go, sire? Naruto raised Warlock and looked into his reflection in the sword. To my hunt for the life force. Do you know where the attack will start? On Brel River, sire. Where they are always trying. What none of them knew was the consequences of Emperor's thirst for new territories, and ancient evils once again returned from oblivion. Norska, Mountains of Fire Terror. An ancient volcano which gave the mountain chain its name was sleeping for several centuries, but what nobody knew about was a castle inside the volcano, ruined and abandoned. It was a shadow of its former self. The only thing that reminded about its glory was an ebony statue of demonical warrior who sat upon his throne. Suddenly a strong wind opened the doors, carrying snowflakes with him. The sudden sound which destroyed the silence of the ruined castle somehow resembled the breathe. Suddenly after the breathing sound, the strange unnatural light from lava illuminated the statue, and the fire started to burn in statue's eyelashes. Slowly, like from a long dream, it raised its head. With little resistance, demonical warrior managed to raise his right and left arms. While stone resisted to his sudden movement, he still managed to raise from his stone throne. He bended to grab a handle of the weapon buried in earth with a HTY push. He freed a hammer from its stone prison. He slowly moved, fire and brimstone following him, and stopped only on the cliff, where he started to oversee his lands. When he spoke, his voice resembled metal rasp. Well, young one. You wish for a war, I'll give you one. With those words he powered up his hammer, raised it upon his head and smashed it into the earth. The volcano behind him started to erupt. Plague lands, corrupted fields. Old Brown Minion looked at the red sky on the north, sighed and slowly walked to glowing mass of blue slime. It's time. His unnaturally deep, for Minion voice pierced the ominous silence. O took a bit of goo in his hands, and lowly moved it to his mouth. A gulping sound was unnaturally loud. Mutation started nearly instantly. Small body grew in height and increased the muscle mass. Horns slowly grew on his head, claws increased in length, and its battle cry was heard through all wastelands. Heard and answered it was. Mutated minions, peasants, warriors and even beowolves touched by corruption in plague war. Everyone who was touched by wastelands answered his. Hear my call, subjects, Mater of Plague, Lord of Wastelands, the second Overlord summons you for war. Month later, Brel River. It was easy to persuade Angie into taking him for war. In his new armor and dark cloak, nobody recognized noble, if a bit grim, black general, in demonic northern warrior. Lord Edmund commanded the forces of Tristan. Naruto had nothing against his old commander, but still he didn't want to reveal himself. After all, he was Argus' father. Under Lord's command, Beowolves took key positions. But one position was protected by Tristan's forces alone. I was purposely left weak. Brogild's water level was low in this time of year. Siegfried's forces could cross it even without any float. Just on foot, even if the water level was sometimes reaching their knees, Imperial forces were stubborn and determined to break the defensive lines. Behind them were lands, women and riches. Everything to burn, rape and steal, and they wanted to take it. By Siegfried's orders they created large wooden shields. Carrying them, Imperial soldiers were safe from arrows. ND counting that all battle mages stay at capital with royal guard. Nothing could stop their moving, nothing except marvel or a bit of trickery. By Lord Edmund's orders near key positions were also hidden catapults. Wooden shields granting protection also limit soldiers' visibility, so when Lord Rose his handgun crews opened fire, large boulders fell on soldiers, lines and air was filled with EAMS and moans of wounded and dying people. Soldiers quickly understood that their formation was working against them, and after first boulder hit the line, they started to flee, seeing that his army turned into uncontrollable crowd. Siegfried thought how to change the situation, and then he saw that near Lord Edmund on the hill where he was, there were no beowolves. They wore special sets of armor to change their shape and still be protected. He knew it was a trap, but it was his only chance. He called his elite forces, among them 50 elves blademasters. He made a sign to his mage, who nodded and created the teleport. Slowly soldiers followed Siegfried into it. When Siegfried's forces appeared from portal they were met by Tristanians, who even outclassed still fought bravely. Siegfried was swinging his sword left and right. Founding targets in such crowd wasn't a problem. Elves were following him, finishing his wounded opponents. It seemed that their charge was unstoppable when shock waved through them into different directions. When Siegfried slowly rose to his feet, he saw the reason of their failure. Large warrior clad in dark armor, but the only thing he could see were his glowing eyes. When he raised his sword, Siegfried barely prepared to his attack. With loud clashing sound, Naruto's sword met Siegfried. From the force of impact Siegfried's arms went numb. Seconds later second blow followed first. Naruto was like mechanical hammer hitting his opponent without any sign of fatigue, slowly smashing his enemy into the earth's soil, while Siegfried was exhausted and breathed hardly. Unrelenting power of his voice smashed Siegfried into the earth harder, and slowly broke his bones, but shout was still continuing, so piece by piece it tore Siegfried to pieces. Battlefield went into ominous silence. Everyone was stunned by Naruto's deed, and in that silence everyone clearly heard the sound of Naruto's second breath. Nobody needed the second guess. Enemy's soldiers fled the battlefield. After that Naruto was called the Dark One from Brogild. 2 months after Brogild's slaughter. Netherworld. Sire, please, this way. Naruto followed Gnarl to the armory. When they reached their destination Gnarl said, "Behold, sire." And a sight to behold it was. Minions once again upgraded Naruto's armor. Final upgrade resembled a mix between infernal and arcanium armors of his forefathers. Armor would cover all his body parts. His commanding glove was from infernal armor. Infernal commander would protect his head. His biceps and his legs were also fully covered in metal, unlike his predecessor Naruto favored full body armors. His right glove had the same design as on arcanium armor. The only difference were runes that granted him connection to the armory. Armor's color was the same as infernal armor, and like it every prominences on it glowed with demonic energy. After several minutes Naruto was testing his new armor. Everything fit perfectly. Sire. Gnarl ran int. Oh, the armory nearly breaking sound barrier. What is it, Gnarl? Naruto was slightly worried. After all, for Gnarl to forget that he can teleport into any part of the tower, something truly dangerous must happen. Northern regions of Norska. They were attacked by wraiths. Northern regions of Norska. Curvet, also known as Northern Capital, the richest city in Ice Alanes, all kingdoms of Norska Reg. Ions was under siege by strange undead warriors. When Naruto arrived there, he didn't take any minions, and due to his legend this city was hailed as his birthplace. Seriously, most people thought that most warriors with northern-style armor originated from Curvet, all because of some stereotypes. Anyway, when Naruto marched through burning streets, to nearly destroyed walls, he finally managed to understand the situation. And what he saw he didn't like. Few remaining defenders were slowly overpowered by undead, but what he concentrated his sight was demonic figure in the broken gates. It slowly passed into the town carrying a giant hammer on his shoulder, looking like he was the master of the world, and it infuriated Naruto to no end. With loud battle cry he charged forward, smashing his sword right onto his opponent's head. But to his unlimited surprise, with unnatural speed his enemy blocked the attack which would kill a lesser giant. Naruto was stunned from the result of his attack, and his opponent immediately used it to his advantage. Crushing hook from his left hand, broke several Naruto's ribs. From pain he fell on his back, covering his rib cage. You fought bravely, my boy. But your moves are rough and predictable, and you are too focused on your opponent. Look around. While you were fighting me, my warriors captured all key points of the city's defense, so it's time to die, said the third Overlord. While raising his hammer, suddenly long black shafts raised from the ground and pulled Naruto down. Gnarl, spitted the third. Looks like he managed to keep some secrets to himself. So laugh while you can. Overlord throne will be mine once again. Netherworld. 2 days later. Raagh. With loud battle cry Naruto cleaved in half his enemy. His loss to the third made him angry at himself. He started to count on his abilities far too much, and now after reopening of Battle Rock Arena he was fighting with captured enemies under Gnarl's and Gash's watchful eyes. While Quaver was commenting his progress and creating his new poetical masterpiece at the same time. Several hundreds of chopped opponents later, Naruto was talking to Gnarl. To kill an Overlord? Well, sire, there are a lot of ways, but most effective and often used as a group of heroes. After that Naruto just smiled and locked himself in blacksmith. Gnarl just sighed looking at this. He was already prepared for unorthodox behavior of his unpredictable master, a master who unlike previous ones cannot be tricked or betrayed, for he was AQS mischievous deceiver as the chaos itself. And Gnarl, even as evil and prideful evil being as he was, couldn't challenge somebody with ability equal to the power primordial. Several days later Naruto finally showed Gnarl what he was. Wands. A dagger, or perhaps a sword for halfling. A two-edged axe, worthy of the mightiest berserker, or some savage god of war. An elegant bow, worthy even for a king of elves to carry. A giant mace, a weapon that his lord made look beautiful even in its crude form. A hammer, that looked like it was made from glass, glowing with soft white light. A staff made from 3 segments showing scenes of light on hell, earth and heaven. And finally most elegant and beautiful sword which blade was engulfed by blue flames. All of them made in that white and golden design, which is so popular among heroes. Very beautiful they are, sire, but why such a quote? Naruto turned his head to Gnarl and smirked. Because my dear friend, that those weapons are made by my hands, they bend to my will and created for a simple, yet nearly impossible goal. Gnarl raised a brow. Which is? Naruto smiled, showing his long fangs. Killing the third, of course. Now put them into some dungeon and made some maps about how to get to them, and don't forget to age them artificially. Gnarl's eyes started to resemble dinner plates. Why so many complications? Naruto's smile just grew to nearly impossible length. I'm going to start a hero party. Naruto's paw. I told many times before that my father can't do a shit without screwing something. His last deed surpassed all that were before it. It started when he decided to power up a little. When I tell little, it means by the standards of the unstable candidate for Overlord position. It means that he ordered to steal several godly artifacts from different shrines across the world and put them into special shrine created according to the blueprints of Florian's shrines. His actions made sense, but due to his arrogance and lack of knowledge about classical magic, lacked logic. Several artifacts reacted quite aggressive to each other. So instead of power up for himself he created a bunch of portals all around the world. Portals that will lead you to any world, if you know how to use them right. So my current position with busty, white-haired succubus in my hands, with a bunch of bodies all around me and a lot of inquisitors thirsting for our blood, doesn't seem so insane. Foos. R.O. Da. Oh, and of course Thuum. My hands were full with my very sexy friend. Dear, could you please look this way? Next thing I remember is my mask in her hands, and very tasty lips of hers. I stopped the kiss only shout another Thuum. Y'all. Tor. Shul. Stream of fire annihilated another. Saint, brother. Well, it's time for us to leave, dear, but like all super villains do. Closing square bracket. White-haired succubus raised her brows. And how it is. Her melodical, soft voice Called to Nurgle begged him to. He made a deep breath. They will have a time alone later. Naruto somehow knew it. The difference between evil and supreme evil is very simple: special effects. Ground where they stood erupted and a stream of magma shot into the sky. Naruto opened his black spectral wings and with unimaginable speed passed through the portal into his world. Portals which were created had an interesting characteristic. From the world of overlords, anybody can pass through the portal, but to pass from other side you must move with certain speed. Hence, why Naruto created a mini volcano. He slowly put the girl back on her feet. Well, the question maybe will sound a bit ridiculous, but how are you? Her black and red eyes pierced Naruto's soul when she turned her gaze back to him. Well, I was nearly burned on a stake, then epically saved, when you, even more epically, with just you voice, defeated 100 of warriors of the church, then send us into the sky with created volcano, and here I now am in another world I might add, looking at the beautiful sunset. All in all, best first date ever. Her mood swings confused Naruto too much, so he wasn't really surprised, when seconds later he was lying on his back, looking into the eyes of Succubus who was sitting on his chest, giving him a great look on her assets. Not that I am against such activities, but I prefer doing this, somewhere dark and comfortable, and you? Girl smiled and answered, I'm in. By the way, what is your name? Golden Mask turned to her. You may call me Mirak, that's after all the one I use currently. Her smile grew wider. And my name is Darula. Naruto raised his hand and dark blue light consumed them. They appeared near the entrance to the throne room of Netherworld Tower. Well Darula, welcome to my home. Naruto looked at the walking Darula and the view was rather intoxicating. Suddenly he was ripped from his dreams by small gray arm, which pulled his robes. Gnarl. Of course his little advisor in the name of evil traditions will be a spoilsport. Sire. Started this, It'll. Minion Master, do you know that she told you her true name? Naruto looked at the Gnarl a bit dumbstruck. True name, shouldn't it be somehow different? You know, with some effects. Gnarl C. Ged, you didn't notice because it's natural for you, but she has spoken in the mob roaring, the demonic language of power, and due to the ancient traditions. Naruto raised his brow. Specify please. Gnarl was silent for a minute. Sire, you must understand. Many rituals starts with the revealing of true name, but only difference is answers, and if my memory serves me right, you two are now the newly married couple. With a loud thud, Naruto, the bane of the world, person who, due to his birth circumstances can be called the Beast of Armageddon, fainted. Several hours later, Overlord personal chambers. Naruto returned to his senses in his large comfy bed, naked with equally naked Darula near him. Married couple, thought he. He looked at her left arm with a tattoo of a dragon with opened out wings. He looked at his left arm, a black slit eye was looking from it, his tattoo. Their wedding rings, of sorts. Their bond and their vow. Naruto never thought about himself as a husband of some woman. Gnarl's lessons didn't do anything good either. Overlords never marry, sire. Bad guy never gets the girl, sire, he takes her. So, such willingness was a bit new to him. He once Aang closed his eyes and let himself rest and fall into embrace of Morpheus. Naruto's dream. Overlord power is a tricky things, especially when there's so many members of their family alive. Sometimes their dreams became one. But for this you need to qualify into several categories. You must be related to the line in some way, lovers included, you must have your own body, you must have your own soul. 3 rules which let linked several people related to Overlord line. When Naruto opened his eyes he found himself in some old castle, already dressed in his infernal armor. He could sense how Rama sniffed an air in the depth of his mind. I sense the stench of betrayal and cowardice, very familiar by the way. Judging by the way reality shifts near us, we are in some kind of dream or shared mindscape. Right now follow my lead kit, time for family reunion. Without a question Naruto slowly went into direction showed by Kurama. Minato Namikaze, better known in Alnis Empire as Emperor Arthurus, was having a tough time with several opponents clad in black armor with ripped faces of his defeated opponents stretched on their black helmets. Those nightmares were like a dream of some madman turned flesh and bone. And of course metal. Behind him in cages were his daughters and wives. Technically he had only one wife, the Empress Lysandra, a beautiful young lady. After a death of his late wife, Kushina, he never thought that he would marry again and live with two legal lovers, Celestina and Discordia, the priestesses of light and dark elves. Each of them gave him a daughter, so an emperor, happy husband and proud father found himself in some twisted reality, protecting his helpless family, and even if some part of him told him that it's just the dream, all that he represented and fought for in his life made him continue his pointless fight. He was on his knees with his neck slowly crushed when a blue lightning struck his enemies, slowly burning them to a crisp. Minato T. redly looked as bodies lay on the stone floor burning with blue flames. He turned his head to the left, so he get mighty left hook right into his face. Yes, say goodbye to your pretty face, Minato, strange distorted voice said above him. At first Minato couldn't understand what his new enemy was saying. His voice was unnatural, like screams and whispering of several people put together. You show. Old, at least get your family out of the cages, Namikaze. Minato raised his head and met the gaze of glowing red eyes. Large demonic warrior was very intimidating, but instead of fear he felt strange sense of kinship with that menacing figure. Father. Chloe's, his daughter from Dark Elf Priestess, cry returned him to his senses. Next moment he was near her cage trying to break it. Trying was key word. Looking at his desperate father, and then to his sisters, who suffered because of his stupidity, Naruto decided to interfere, and with a click of his fingers all of them found themselves in comfortable chairs. Near a hearth in large room, once again Naruto clicked his fingers and fire started to burn. Where we are? Asked Minato. In your dream, Namikaze. Everybody turned to the Naruto. Dream. So all of this was your doing? Minato instantly became angry. Wait a minute, why are you calling Arthurus Minato? Asked Lysandra. Because it's his name, and no, it wasn't me who did that, Yellow Flash, it was you. It's your dream after all, replied Overlord. Then why are you here? Certainly, you don't have a random increase in your humanity or mercy or conscience. You are right, because I have neither of them. But revealing to you certain information is a basic move in psychological warfare. Overlord raised his left hand, clad in massive metal glove, and black claw touched Minato's forehead. Sudden surge of information forced him to his knees. What have you done to him, you fiend? Screamed Discordia, who instantly appeared near her husband's side. I used the mightiest and most terrifying weapon in my arsenal. Truth. Was that true? Everything I had seen. And how did you showed me this? Asked pale Minato. Power showed me this, stones of Dark Tower, which you destroyed. Know about every descendant ever born. You just need to ask the right question, and know how to ask. You will not win. Even in his weakened state, Minato was still sure in his power. Naruto chuckled. Against you are God of Death, King of Biju, Overlord in your own blood. You already lost Namikaze at that night on the 10th of October. Overlord clicked his fingers and dream shattered. Week later, Netherworld Tower, Portal Chambers. Naruto walked around his first important investment, Great Portal. He managed to create it using a migrating rift. All rifts, which lead to other world, were connected in some kind of net. This particular rift didn't had a constant place to lead, unlike other rifts. But it could connect to other rifts and lead to the world, which was connected to Gervaga by nearby rift. So when Naruto connected it to the net, he gained access to the every world with rift. That's how a prototype of magical internet was created, with Naruto as main admin. And led by curiosity, he made a step into the new world. He didn't make a mistake. After his teleportation, he found himself in the laboratory of a mage with an owner right in the middle of interesting necromantic experiment. Naruto found a very interesting colleague in Master Dainor, strange snake-like creature, who belonged to Duoth race. In appearance they were much higher than humans, completely bald with a bit pointed ears. Their skin resembled scales or strange exoskeleton like different bugs had. Clawed hands, powerful muscles and basic talent to dark magic made them fearsome opponents. But all dark mages of this world Duoth were loners, their only country situated on large continent, like Isle, where they lived, sometimes waging wars or going in raids to main continent, which kept their numbers in check. It was also surprise for Naruto that this particular world, Edwis, has rule of one gift. Some say that it was curse from gods of fate, when, for example, somebody with talents of both magic and sword had chosen the path of magic, that person after several years couldn't become a warrior anymore. Naruto read about something like this. It was a rare mutation when energy created by body and soul were incompatible and cannot mold. But seeing something like this worldwide, certainly not natural and very suspicious. Also Naruto's new colleague had a certain problem. He was a dean of faculty of necromancy and maleficism, and as dark mages were rare, other faculties wanted to cut the budget of dark mages. To tell the truth, currently there was only one necromancer, Dera himself. Headmaster Aneto managed to hold their greed, but recently through the use of old traditions and laws they managed to corner Aneto and made him announce that the funds would be divided through the progress of their students. Therefore they announced the start of magical tournament. In total there were 12 faculties, of general magic, of fire, of air, of water, of earth, of alchemy, of holy magic, of evil spirits and monstrology, of ancient magic, of methaworld, of healing and of necromancy and maleficism. So a lone necromancer living for money that could be theirs was for them like a red carpet for bull. But unlike them, Headmaster Aneto, who was rather open-minded, was also a leader of Thunder Organization. This world union of mages was created to combat a greatest threat of Edwis, Undeath, also named after Arceus Thunderbearer, who died battling this threat. He was ripped to shreds by undead, very inspirational indeed. Naruto's comments. Monsters were self-rising everywhere and in certain places in masses. Since they were creatures of necromancy, the powers of other mages were useless against them, hence why masters of death were so feared and despised. Only thing which was effective was holy magic. But powerful enough monsters withstood even that, and when everything was deemed useless, dark aspects of ancient magic were used. Ritual tortures, sacrifices, it was the same necromancy, but in more crude and archaic form. So through countless sacrifices they managed to stop the threat for several years. When all they needed was calling an experienced necromancer. And now all magic community is trying to cut the branch they are sitting on. Not on Naruto's watch. The only one who was truly worth Naruto's time was Theodore, young fire mage, most promising student of the Onus. Dean of Faculty of Fire. He hated Dainor and everything connected to him with passion. Most funny thing, he hated him because of his race, not his dark talent. Many members of his family were lost in last Duoth's raid. It didn't bother him, that nearly half a century already passed since that tragic day. All mages had only one thing common. They are all bunch of grudge-bearing bastards. So unlike his other opponents, who didn't pose a threat to him, Theodore had a potential to be one, but Naruto learned his lesson. He would prevent him from becoming a threat, by disposing of him. Looking at Theodore's face, while he consumed his flames through the darkness element, young mage could nearly feel his fear with his skin. Then Naruto put his hand through Theodore's chest, ripping out his heart. With loud thud, his enemy's body fell near his legs. Naruto's first and bloody win scared other competitors, and his last one he was chosen as winner. Since he proved his strength, his opinion started to gain weight. After a while Naruto made a project and showed it to headmaster and councilman. According to his project, since dark mages are rare, facultative lessons in dark arts should be appointed for other mages. Theory and practice, the lack of both was the main reason of high death rate among young mages. After several days of heated debates, all councilmen, with exception of deans of fire and holy magic faculties, approved. Now he was sitting in class waiting for his first students. He sighed. Deans, who were against his project, still managed to sabotage it. They decided to create a testing class of sorts, and of course they put there only those who hated dark arts with fanatical passion. His teachings met violent resistance from his students. It made him furious enough to tell that only those who wish to learn can stay. Only two stayed. Rodolphus, young air mage. Naruto thought that young idealist was sent here in hopes that dark mage will kill him. And Eluvate, blonde-haired elven maiden, who stayed, under the orders of her clan. Invaluable information about undead would come in handy for elves of Darkwood. That forest slowly succumbed to strange disease, as druids called it. Dark magic slowly turned it into the center of self-rising. So young she Elf gritted her teeth and stayed. Rodolphus on the other hand was a bit idealistic, but talented mage. He was naive and honest and completely charmed Eluvate with it. Unfortunately for her, Rodolphus was as dense as his dark master was once, but also fortunately for her, said dark mage wasn't so unwilling to help in their case as people of Konoha were with him and Hinata. So for several months he taught them defense against dark arts, Naruto style, which meant a lot of undead. I didn't do anything to them. Maybe upgraded them a bit, maybe not, which meant do or die situations. After several months his program was made official and could not be banned, but his enemies managed to foul his plans yet again. In recent years Orson, the kingdom where Magic Academy situated, was trying to colonize lands near the Black River. Reason was very simple. Harvest was poor, taxes weak. Slowly rising, and nobles took the best lands as their hunting grounds. So some wise advisors decided to colonize new lands. So with a lot of alcohol and drugs they obtained signs of leaders of native people. So all lands officially belonged to Orson. Caravans of people who wanted new lands and better lives went to New Province, but picked the native people, who lived near Black River for generations. Didn't give their lands away so easily. They were the great hunters, whose power was only increased by air primal culture. They were masters of sneak attacks and hiding in shadows. And they were cruel to anyone who they deemed as a threat to their lands. Due to the ancient agreement between government and mages, the former could ask a battalion of mid-ranked mages or one powerful mage in time of war. And my enemies made me the lucky one. Naruto, or as many knew him in this world, Master Ketch, arrived to Bolvin Fortress several weeks after his exile, of sorts. Naruto gritted his teeth. He remembered smiling faces of his enemies and their snickering behind his back. Suddenly he smiled. Fools had forgotten that dark mages remember their enemies till their death, and sometimes after, if said dark mage is necromancer. He will have his revenge, and if for it he will need to destroy every tribe beyond Black River, then so be it. When Naruto met Valios, the governor of Kolba's province, he instantly felt respect for this man. High, dark-haired warrior with dark green eyes and face covered in scars, he was as rough as lands under his rule. They instantly felt respect for each other, one for the magical power, and other for his leadership skills. However, this night showed Valios one more talent of Ketch, for this night was the one when Picts decided to test the fortress defenses. It was too late to use magic. Too little time to create something massive, so Naruto used his sword and some quick magic spells from his dark arsenal. Picts fought like animals, without any understanding of warfare. They just tried to overwhelm their opponents with power and numbers. Half-naked figures armed sometimes with just clubs pushed heavily armed troopers from the walls. Their instincts and primal power gave them the upper hand in first clash. Seeing only red in their battle frenzy, they didn't feel pain from the wounds and didn't fear death. Only thirst to kill existed for them at that moment. However, when Ketch also joined battle, their instincts played a bad trick on them. Fear of magic, of something supernatural, of something unknown lies deep within human soul, buried by mind. Stubbornness and overconfidence attained in human evolution, but when instincts rule over human, that particular little fear once again receives his original power, and when Naruto appeared on battlefield, that fear instantly clouded their minds. Picts left the walls, but the horde near them still stayed, and those who fled slowly returned, fearing their leader, Chief Warlock Zogar Sag, more than alien dark mage. Then were long negotiations. Zogar Sag was wary of Ketch, being the son of ancient spirit of nature, Jagger Sag. He was aware of Naruto's demonic powers, yet he still didn't want to return sacred lands and lands near fortress, but after long negotiations, he received the sacred lands and several landscapes for growing heather. Soon the famous heather mead once again returned to the markets of Orson. But nothing is constant, peace moreover. Several months later, Borderlands. Rodolphus, accompanied with several riders, slowly rode to the Bolvin fortress. He, alongside with several Templars, his aunt, Knight, Commander Maria and his old friend Eluvate, were sent to Bolvin to strengthen the garrison. Young Mage sighed. He was certain that he was sent here in hopes that some wild Pict may kill him. Having several influential cousins as rivals for inheritance had its negative perks. He looked at his aunt, who followed him with her own goals. She was rather young-looking woman. Even in her 40s nobody would give her more than 20. Her long brown hair reached her shoulder, blades in her cute face never left any male uninterested. Rodolphus suspected that his aunt wanted to meet his teacher Ketch, yet her goals were still unclean. Rodolphus turned his head to Alluviette, she alongside her mother and young sister, with loyal guards left Darkwood without explanation. Yet it was also known that nobody tried to stop them, they traveled without any destination, and when Rodolphus met her and asked her opinion about his new appointment, she offered her and her warriors support. He turned his gaze to Sylvana, Alluviette's mother and sleeping form of Dana, her sister. He didn't know why those three left Darkwood, but certainly it was something serious. Rodolphus' thoughts were interrupted by screams from the forest, screams of wounded and dying people. He saw how half-naked, gray-skinned figure appeared from the shadows of the trees. Rodolphus instantly recognized Pict, a native of the borderlands. Then suddenly something hit him into the back. Power from impact was so great that it dragged him to the hooves of Rodolphus' horse. In Pict's back was sword. Not just any sword. Such strange completely black blade with glowing red runes. Young mage saw it only once. On his teacher's, Master Ketch's, belt before he went to Bolvin. Everybody turned when they heard cracks sounds from the forest. Man, like a Pict before him, emerged from the shadows. Down his waist he was covered by leftovers of black robes and wide pants. His foots were bare, fingers had claws on them. Above his waist was no clothing, so everyone could see his mighty frame covered by tattoos. His hands were also clawed. Large spiked mane of blonde hair waved behind his back, beast-like. Glowing red eyes looked at them with wary. On his cheeks were marks in form of 3 black lines on each. His mouth was opened, showing his long fangs, and his breathing was hard. He was also covered in blood and dust and appeared even more barbaric than Pict before him. But red glowing eyes, black runic blade and staff that he squeezed in his left hand, were enough for Rodolphus to recognize him. Master Ketch. Blonde-haired mage focused his gaze on First Rider and replied with question of his own. Rodolphus, what are you doing here? We are here to strengthen the garrison, said Rodolphus. Naruto meanwhile slowly walked to the Pict's corpse. While he moved closer everyone put their hands on their weapons fearing an unprovoked attack from feral warrior. Naruto smirked looking at them. He grabbed the hilt of his sword and pushed his weapon out of the corpse. You are too late. There is no Bolvin fortress anymore. Zogar Sag and his hordes ravaged and burned it to the ground. And what about the defenders? Ringing voice of Night, Commander, made everyone turn to her. Naruto shook his head. They are either dead or escaped the massacre, at least I hope so. Maria raised her brow. Hope so. You don't know what these gray devils do their prisoners. Anyway, we need to return to Valle until the dark. If we are not fast enough I cannot guarantee our survival. Town of Valle. Midnight. They returned to the town in grim silence. Many citizens knew the Dark Mage, through his visits and deeds on the Black River, and seeing him in such sorry state. When he could be recognized only by his glowing eyes and prized possessions, staff and sword, filled their hearts with dread. After several hours, when Naruto bathed, ate and got himself a new clean dark robes from somewhere. He can be found sitting behind the table with Maria, Rodolphus and Alluviette slowly drinking wine and telling the story of the fortress fall. After my confrontation with Zogar Sag and our eventual grants for him, everything was silent on the border. Picts grew their heather and made their mead, traders were buying it and fortress slowly turned into the trade center. Everything collapsed in one moment. Maybe some bureaucrat decided that our bribes were not high enough, or some influential trader decided to get his filthy hands on new trading center, but our reports were faked and made us look like incompetent leaders. Governor Valios was stripped of his position. In his stead was appointed some young idiotic noble, by the name Crozon, whose power and knowledge, he said, are above some commoner's understanding. The brat ordered mercenaries, who came with him, to burn the heather fields. He thought that demonstration of power will terrify the primitive tribes. Naruto sighed and gulped all the wine in his goblet. He grabbed the bottle and refilled it. It was an unsuccessful event, wasn't it? Asked Maria. Unsuccessful, lady, it was disastrous. What he didn't understand is that Zogar Sag attained a lot of influence through his deeds. He led them to victory, he returned them sacred lands and he made the tribes rich through the trade. He made it possible for East traders to pass through Black River unscratched, but only if they also traded weapons for Pict's gold. From Chief Warlock he turned into Warchief, and he is damn good tactician. His Picts are armed much better than before, and unlike the Rangers of Borderlands can move unnoticed, while they are heavily armed. The only things he lacks are siege machines. So behind the walls of Valais we are safe? Asked Rodolphus. There would be enough of them to use dead bodies of their brethren as shields, or made mounds from bodies near walls, that wouldn't bother them in slightest. Our only hope is to wait for reinforcements, and then somehow push them to the open fields. Without their forests and any understanding of battle formations, they will be destroyed in first cavalry attack. Suddenly loud screams pierced through the silence of the night. Loud terrifying screams from north gates. Pushing each other from the way, Rodolphus and company ran to the gates. Naruto didn't follow them. Slowly without haste he dealt with the bottle of wine and only then rose from his seat and followed his companions. He already knew what he will see. So he just pushed the people from his way and, unlike his friends, he reached the wall much faster. All of them were on parapet and tried to see something on the other side of the wall. Naruto's glowing eyes gave him alongside the sharp vision ability to see in complete darkness. So unlike his friends he quickly saw the 3 battle axes, stabbed in the wood of the gates. That was official declaration of war in these wild lands. Somewhere in forest he could hear the sound of drums. Valais. Week later. Picts, unlike Naruto's predicaments, didn't attack the town. They started besiegement, taking the town in ring of their forces. From the wall, Naruto could see Zogar Sag dancing near the fire, summoning spirits from the depth of the forests. Naruto understood that they will not survive the siege unless he uncovered more of his shady abilities. His necromantic powers need death mana, and everything around was surrounded by life. Druids, who followed Eluviet, were powerless too. Lands, trees and animals here were followers, children and vassals of Zogar Sag, therefore protecting them from the power of the druids. Sire. Naruto turned his head to see a young man, nearly boy, in a form of the guard, which was several sizes bigger than him. You were waited in the war council room. With a sigh Naruto followed young lad. Knight. Commander Maria made a big gulp of wine. It was only thing that kept her sane in recent days. Horde of barbarians, which were nearly enslaved just several months prior, now marched to capital as unstoppable force of nature. Their only hope is now mages. Only their combined might will stop the horde. Mages. If somebody told her that she will work with Dark Mage and trust him fully with her life, she would have gutted that somebody for such heretical thoughts. Now though, everything changed. Ketch was only one who held them together. He was the leader people needed in this dark time, and also he didn't fear these barbarians. Warlock. Zogar Sag feared Ketch. Horde leaders felt it. Old Warlock didn't try to siege the city. Instead he waited for defenders to weaken from starvation and thirst, and only after they wouldn't be strong enough to held their weapons will he attack. But situation wasn't good for long. Lasted besiegement. Picts wanted blood and thirsts for battle slowly prevailed over fear of Zogar's supernatural powers. Several heads of his lieutenants were already attached to the city's walls. Maria's stray of thoughts was interrupted by the sound of opening door. She turned her head to see Ketch, as always covered in black robes head to toe, walking into the room. She caught herself on thought that she liked his appearance more without the robes. She shook her head, trying to clear her thoughts, but annoying images of topless Dark Mage didn't let her go. It's all because her thoughts were interrupted by Ketch, who took the bottle from her hands and dealt with the leftovers in it. Ah, that was really good one. So, what did you want from me, Maria? Maria sighed. Straightforwardness of necromancer was something she liked. It was really good to not think about choice of the words, but his tone and manners. Anyway, she didn't have much of a choice in companions. Ketch, with all his flaws, was still better than most noble knights. I want to know, can you kill Zogar Sag? If he will lead the attack? Without a doubt. If you want to kill him in Forest from Shadows, then chances are 0. She raised a brow. Why? Ketch sat on the table. Very simple. I need energy from suffering and death for my powers to work, or a lot of neutral energy to turn it into one I use. Zogar, on the other hand, need power of the nature for his magic to work. Understood now? Not quite. Elaborate please. Sesh. Zogar feels himself natural in forests. He is in tune with nature. If I try to kill him there he will found about it before I could say. Ramen. On the other hand, battlefield is like a free buffet for necromancer, a lot of pain from living and free energy from dying men. He will be on my territory and my place means my rules. So we only need him to start a siege. He will start it. He needs our heads to cement his authority in the horde. Barbarians after all respect only power. He will come first tonight. His logic dictates it, that I swear. Prepared for the siege. Naruto looked at the countless torches in the forest. He could hear loud beating of the Picts' drums and parts of their crude speaking and singing. They waited for something, but for what? Answer came in form of loud steps, and after the first one everything became silent. Birds didn't sing, wind didn't blow, and nor Picts, nor defenders dared to even breath. Second step was louder. Creature was moving closer to the fortress and moving fast. Finally he saw, House of Era. Trees fell in the forest and then several more. Whatever answered Warlock's call, it was massive. Massive and angry. With loud roar it jumped from the forest to the open field, and Naruto managed to see who, or rather what, was Zogar Sag's trump card. It stood nearly 6 meters tall. Under it bluish skin moved powerful muscles. Skulls of dead humans looked from different places of his body, unnature. Ally large horns attached to the small head, big enough and certainly strong enough arms, to destroy walls. Creature didn't had eyes. All space on its head was given to large, powerful jaws filled with sharp fangs. On massive muscular shoulders sat Zogar Sag. And he smiled in triumph. What is that monstrosity? Asked Maria, who stood behind Naruto's left shoulder. Tokollash. Replied he. Never thought that this little warlock can do something like this. Mara pouted. Can you elaborate, please? Not all of us are such powerful and knowledgeable necromancers. Stop pouting, Maria. Did you ever hear about Dragir? Maria felt how cold shiver run on her spine. Dragir, the highest form of undeath, alpha, predator of the Death Kingdom, lion among the undead. Instructions said, flee on sight, if you ever meet such a thing. And now something like that was their opponent. Naruto, as if nothing happened, continued. If Dragir can be made from one body, then Tokollash is much more crude form of it. You require hundreds of sacrifices to create him. Tokollash is more like golem of flesh than true undead. It didn't make much of a difference, thought Maria. It's still several meters tall and have big enough fists to punch through stone walls. Tokollash slowly walked to the fortress. Each his loud step was like a melody of doom for defenders, and when it was near the wall, shadow jumped on the right shoulder of the creature. Naruto, with his black staff in left and sword in right hand, looked into the Zogar Sag's eyes, who was staying on the creature's left shoulder. Naruto took his staff into both hands and stabbed it into the creature's neck. Loud roar shattered glass in the windows in entire city. Golem raised his hands to shake Naruto from his back. Dark Mage dodged the massive arm and blocked massive bronze sickle of Zogar Sag with a sword of his own. Zogar jumped back at the left shoulder of the creature. He touched its arm, pouring his magical power into it, trying to calm down the beast. Naruto, on the other hand, once again grabbed his staff and pushed it deeper into creature's neck. Roar was much louder than previous, and Tokollash started to glow from inside. Fool! Screamed Zogar Sag. His gruff, raspy voice was filled with fear. You are destabilizing my magic. If you don't stop, you will turn Tokollash into giant magic bomb. Naruto just gave him one of Kurama's trademark smiles. That's what I'm aiming for. Quote, defenders hearing this moved from the walls to the secondary positions in the city, which they created, if walls would be destroyed or taken by Picts. Zogar Sag, meanwhile, once again roared and clashed his weapon with Naruto's sword. His strikes were strong, but lacked finesse and technique. It was clear that Warlock, like all Picts, preferred more to strike from behind with daggers and clubs, then facing opponent face to face like Naruto. Zogar made a large, horizontal swing with his sickle. Naruto ducked under his hand and threw a punch to his knee. Old bones of Zogar Sag didn't manage to withstand demonic might of Naruto. With a loud cracking sound, Warlock's knee broke inside. Zogar roared from pain and surprise. Naruto, meanwhile, was already on his legs. He grabbed Warlock's head and headbutted him, knocking him off. Zogar slowly fell from his position and with a loud thud, his body fell to the earth. Naruto, meanwhile, prepared his teleportation spell. He grabbed his staff and pushed it to himself, and only when it left the wound he activated his spell. He managed to get away from there right in time. Second later, great explosion day. Destroyed the Pict's forces and city's walls. Explosion wave lasted for several minutes, and only then mages get down the shields and ordinary people get from hiding places. Maria looked at the black pot where was once Tokalash and thought about Ketch. She felt really bad. Him being a dark mage was the only flaw in her eyes. She after all was a Templar first and woman second. Suddenly somebody gently touched her shoulder. She turned to say Ketch's glowing eyes. As I wanted to say before everything started, Takalashes are also quite unstable magical constructs. Aftermath of the battle was rather disappointing. Though they didn't lose anyone dead, there were countless wounded in city, walls were destroyed and civilians, homes were heavily damaged, but the alternative was far worse, so nobody complained. Main forces repelled Pict's horde, but the cost was too high. Nearly half of the army was lost. Wild barbarians didn't surrender and beg for mercy. High commanders, after the meeting, decided to pull borders back to Thunder River. Valley City was abandoned and its former residents founded new fortress near Thunder River, Dark Spire, in memory of the man who defeated Zogar Sag. Maria was made a governor in this fortress. Nearby forests was given to Eluviet, her mother and sister, and their vassals with their families. Nobody asked why they left Darkwood. Officially they just created a new branch of Darkwood elves in the new forest, but never before it was created by resident queen and two current heirs to the throne. Only completely naive man will not think that something was fishy there. Rodolphus, meanwhile, returned to his family estate. He wanted to see how his mother was doing and what his cousins prepared for war with him. He already knew that they will not eyed the problem with inheritance without bloodshed. Naruto, on the other hand, took a vacation to stay out of the radar for a while, until everything became calm and higher-ups didn't lost their day. Ire to make him guilty in all their mistakes. So, he just said goodbye to Dainor and returned to the Netherworld. Netherworld Tower, Portal Chambers. Naruto get out of the portal chambers and with a click of his fingers changed his wardrobe. His dark robes turned to his Overlord armor, and getting sparks from stone floor with his metal boots he marched to the throne room. Gnarl patiently and obediently waited for his return. "It's good to see you again, sire," greeted he. "You were absent for entire week, so you didn't lose much." "Our hero project went as planned. Items are hidden in specially made dungeon and map is nearly completed. Forces of the third Overlord didn't take much of a ground recently. They just built fortified posts and prepared their arsenals. Also they are raising additional new undead from North warriors. They resemble Draugr from Skyrim, which you hid in your Mirak temple, after you took control over them from Alduin. Also Lady Darula awaits your arrival in your personal chambers. She also said something about bubbles and bath." The rest of the sentence he said to the Naruto's back, while his master ran to personal chambers. Another week later, Netherworld Tower, personal chambers. Darula laid on her back and looked at the ceiling. Recently her personal life became rather satisfying. She never thought that being an offspring of the Demon Queen, read Dark Goddess of Lust, she will find someone good enough to be her husband, much more satisfy her. But everybody could be proven wrong, and to her happiness she turned her head to see the sleeping form of her husband. She smiled, thinking about all one and will do. With a smile on her lips she once again succumbed to her sleep. Several hours later Naruto opened his eyes and silently get out of the chambers. Seconds later he sat upon his throne listening to Gnarl's report. "I remind you, sire, that you promised Lord Edmund to visit him in his mansion, due to his son's unfortunate demise. Also there is something else requiring your attention. Rumors have been circulating in spawning pools recently. Your antipode, hero, is returning once again. As I told you, due to ancient agreement between dark courts, we focus our attention on continent, and Court of Blades can have Albion. But the light side of your family, heroes, destroyed the court and became the royal family of Albion. It looks like one of the heirs to the throne is a new hero. Albion is one of the most advanced countries. We will need their technologies in our army. Pistols and rifles will come in handy. We found out Teresa already started the training of the young hero. He will need additional persuasion from the dark side. You still have enough time for a family reunion. Step on the teleporting rune. Blue energy engulfed Naruto. He felt how it took him and moved him somewhere. When Naruto opened his eyes, everything was covered in white mist. He was on the road, which led to the castle on the horizon. Fr. Own left and right side's road was washed by endless sea. Several zones were blocked by iron gates. Near second gates stood young, black-haired lad. Well, hello there, young prince. Prince turned his head to see a figure covered in glowing ebony armor wearing a dark cloak, black spiked helmet and long sword with glowing runes. Who are you? Asked young prince. Past, present, future. What you are, what you can be. I am one of the closest thing in this universe to you. In a way I am you, as you are me. Enough of this. She appeared silently without anyone noticing, but her appearance was even more spectacular than the one with lightning and thunder. Teresa, such an honor, but you are overstepping your boundaries. We are here not as overlord and hero, but as rulers and future kings. You have no say in political decisions of your young charge. Kings? Asked young prince. Naruto turned his glowing eyes to him. But of course, since we both are fighting against old rulers and we both are trying to prove our rights for crowns and thrones, and also counting the facts that our enemies are our relatives, logic dictates that this one time we combine our forces. I need your technologies. You will need my power over the dark creatures. Deal. Prince looked at the stretched hand covered by black metal glove and finally took it. Deal. The name is Henry. Good to know you, Henry. I'm 5th Overlord. I have too many faces and names for you to remember, but those who will bear this sign, on his hand glowed the seal of Overlord, are the ones who speak my words, only through them. And by personal meetings of course we will communicate. He turned his back to young prince and with a bright blue glowing, teleported from the Teresa's pocket dimension. Tistane. Near Lord Edmund's mansion. Rain, rain, rain. May dark gods curse this fucking rain. Thought Naruto. While clad in his Mirak attire he walked to the mansion of his old commander. Under the veil of heavy rain Naruto could barely see the large mansion. Finally he managed to locate the road and followed it to the mansion. Large iron gates opened and closed by the move of his hand, then Naruto went to the main doors. He knocked in the doors and waited for answer. Doors opened revealing spears pointed to his chest. If that's how you met old friends, Edmund, then I should had stayed home. Mirak. Old warrior was really glad to see him. Your arrival never was so needed as now. Come, I will show you. They passed nearly all estate, until Lord Edmund lead him to the dead end. He pushed one of the stones and secret passage opened in the wall. They passed through dark tunnel. What are you hiding here, Edmund? Asked Naruto. Well, catch. Let me call you that. It's much easier this way and nobody can hear us. I needed this secret passage for a meetings with certain person. Please tell me you didn't build it to simply go fuck random woman. Close, but not actually. He led Naruto to massive wolf doors. Here you will understand everything. Edmund opened the door leading Naruto into the room. In room 3 women were waiting for them, one in massive black armor with dark skin, blonde hair and blue eye. S was holding massive hammer in her arms. Second busty red-haired woman in very revealing outfit with mace and shield. Last one was also blonde in mantle of the mage. Her deep green eyes burned with magic power. So? Asked Naruto. But Edmund went to the other part of the room where large bed situated. What Naruto didn't see was that bed isn't empty. Young blonde woman laid in it. She and female mage were nearly identical. Of course if you don't count age difference. Girl made a deep breath, opened her bright blue eyes and closed them. Her breathing once again became calm. Blue eyes, thought Naruto, same as Edmund's. Now everything fell to right places. Edmund met his wife here. Naruto remembered that he told about her being a mage. He knew that she gave birth to Argus, but never heard about daughter. So he decided to voice his suspicions. She is your daughter, isn't she? Edmund nodded his head. Yes, as you know, girls are strictly raised by mothers. That is the rule of our mercenary society. Yeah, to protect them from our enemies. Naruto got closer to the bed, got off the blankets, which covered her and revealed her bandaged body and blood on them. Continue while I do my duty. He stretched his arms to the wounds and bright light engulfed his hands. Edmund sighed. As you already understood, she is my daughter Celia. She is 2 years younger than Argus, if you want to know. Others saw how Naruto flinched after hearing the Argus name. It should have been our first meeting, but while they secretly went here, with only most loyal protectors and friends of my daughter, they met a beast on the road, very unnatural one. It looked like it was created from several beasts combined together. Originally I wanted to ask you to protect my girl, but right now it would be good enough if you managed to save her. Naruto meanwhile ended the healing process. I already did. Now, could you introduce me to the ladies? Asked Naruto. We will manage ourselves. I'm Minerva, Celia's mother, as you already understood. She, the sorceress pointed at the redhead, is Risti. She was once a bandit, who was forced to steal to protect and help her family. After my helped her family, she acquired most loyal warrior. This one, she pointed at the black-armored female, is Lady Helga, one of the childhood friends of my daughter. She is also paladin from the Order of Black Hammer. Nice to know you all. At that moment Celia sat with a groan and opened her eyes. Where am I? Mother, who are those two men? While the happy family reunion happened, Naruto excused himself and said that he will wait in mansion. Several hours later, sitting around the table, they drank wine and prepared to listen to Mirak, who sat near fireplace in comfortable and soft chair. Doors and windows were closed. Servants sent away. Spells casted by Mirak and Minerva safely covered them from any unwanted attention. You may get off your mask, sire. You are among your friends. It's still hard to hear such official greetings from my old commanding officer. He got off the mask, revealing his face. 3 girls were immediately on him, asking questions and saying things like, cute, adorable, are they real? Can I touch them? Last question was asked by all 3 at once. Naruto raised his hands and replied, I'm answering in order. Yes, they are real. No, you cannot touch my whisker marks. Gills pouted and immediately made the puppy eyes. Still no. Lady Minerva, please stop laughing and do something. Oh, it's just hilarious. Catch the great butcher. Beowolves is afraid of 3 girls. I just can't hold my laughter. Girls, blushing from embracement, returned to their seats. Thank you. Before we start, why so much secrecy with meetings with your family? I thought after the war elders decided it was needed to recreate old bonds. Edmund waved his hand. Witches. We don't want them to get an upper hand in our conflict. Just think what gift it is to them. Our wives and daughters in their grasp. Hence, that's why so many complications. Other question. You think all of them need know about Argus? He managed to see how Lady Minerva flinched. Who is that Argus? Asked Celia. Your elder brother, replied Lord Edmund. I have a brother. Correction, you had a brother. He died at his day of challenge, said Minerva with a pain in her voice. I was there, said Naruto. There were no bodies, which led me to assumption that either your son is alive, or somebody took the bodies, until I heard your tale about your daughter's arrival. We too were attacked, only by the beast changed by the magic plague. The similarities between attacks led me to conclusion that it wasn't coincidence, but very cunning plan. And what would that somebody receive from such a plan? Asked Edmund. Aside from our heirs to the greatest lines of Beowulfs, our weakening on the field, thinning our numbers and taking a bit of power from us. Personal army of Beowulfs in future. This is, but why did they take Graham's body with them? By your report you did a number on him. My memories are blurry. After I found Argus, I never said that I killed Graham. All I can be certain about is that my enemy had a red blood, and no matter who he or she was, I will find the source and deal with our problem. Naruto sat behind a table with Helga, Celia and Risti. He was in his Mirak attire. His face once again safely hidden by the golden mask of his once nemesis. We need to constantly move, judging by attack on you. Our unknown enemy wished you dead or severely crippled. Therefore we have several options. Constantly move, find somebody powerful enough to protect us or face our deaths. None of this is the option. We must stay and fight. Celia's fist hit the table, nearly breaking it in half. Everybody in tavern turned their heads to them. Celia blushed from embarrassment, and when everyone returned to their activities, she once again whispered to Naruto. Running from the enemy is disgraceful, I will not run. Naruto sighed. Listen Celia, I too prefer fighting my enemies head on, but those bitches has very nasty habit. They like to hide in the shadows and they like to strike from them. They do it so good, that all that we know about them, is that they are either wealthy enough to hire master, chimerologist or they are good enough in magical arts to do the deed themselves. And this criteria applies to nearly all powerful people in this world. Celia sighed. I know it's just several days ago I was just another girl from noble family. And now, Helga put her hand on Celia's shoulder. Don't worry Celia, I and Risti are with you and Mirak, will not leave you in such situation. She turned to Mirak. At least I hope so. Naruto crossed his arms. I never gave you reason to doubt me, your lack of truth hurts me deeply anyway. Do you know somebody who can help us, so I might check them aside from my contacts? This time it was Risti who spoke up. I have a friend. She is a dwarf, leads a group of her kin and works in trading department. She is an old friend of mine and I worked with her quite often back in time. And does this friend of yours have a name? Asked Mirak. Bianca, said Risti. Her name is Bianca. Quick death, black arrow, and don't fuck with her if you want to live. Bianca. That one. Risti just nodded. Brilliant. When were you going to tell me that you have a best assassin and thief of the north as your friend? On the other hand, never mind, if somebody heard that you have me and your friends it would be pretty much the same. Maybe worse. Anyway, I heard that your friend have a problem with guilds in Danwin, where she operates. Thieves and killers don't like solo operatives like her, they are either too good or too bad. Unfortunately for them she is the former and there is nobody who is better than her in Danwin. By the rules of their circle, prices are made by most skilled thief and assassin. And your friend is the best in the Danwin. Situation is worsening, so we should go to Danwin. Losing potential ally like this is beyond foolish. Wait a minute, replied Risti. I remember her and her group being smugglers. Not assassins, and she never worked solo. She always said that true power comes from bonds with people. Naruto scratched his mask. Either she is a great actor, or something really bad happened. Either way we will find out in Danwin. Let's go. Danwin was a reach port town situated near the Falcon Sea. There's several ways to get there. Simplest ways were by main road and by ship. But simplest does not mean fastest. From Amphrey town where they were now the shortest way was most dangerous, through the part of wastelands filled with monsters and magically changed creatures. And then through the troll swamps, where lived a very nasty troll tribe, dumb and human, eating kind of trolls and other creatures, which existed long before the age of mortals. And now, our heroes made a camp near the borders of the wastelands. Celia sat near the fire and looked at the glowing blue horizon. Penny, for your thoughts. She turned to see Mirak, staying to her left. She clapped a ground near her, inviting him to sit near her. Two of them sat together, and looked at the glowing mass that filled wastelands. Then Celia broke the silence. Amazing, isn't it? From such a distance it looks so beautiful and harmless, hard to believe that these lands are source of the bane of entire world. Not entire world, mostly North Kingdoms and Alnus Empire, which is on their islands, and Albion are not affected. Albion. I never was there. Were you there? Celia turned her curious face in Naruto's direction. I have a business there and a relative, his name is Henry. He is a bit naive, but he is a good guy. At least he is looking like a male, unlike my brother Angie. Angie. Sounds like a girl's name. None of them noticed when Risti and Helga sat near them. It's more like a nickname. His true name is Angelus. Quote, now it sounds a bit too romantic, like a hero of some love novella. Commented Risti. You read such a things. Risti, you are truly filled with surprises. Said Helga. Hey, if I look a bit brutish, it doesn't mean that I. Never mind. What happened to you, friend? He married a princess, like in some weird love novel. They were silent for several minutes. Go to tents, said Mirak. I will be the first on guard. Celia went to her tent, but in last second she turned her head to look on Mirak. He sat near the fireplace and fire played a strange game with shadows around him. She entered her tent and laid on her mattress, but still didn't manage to get a giant winged shadow behind Mirak out of her mind. Mirak looked at the fireplace. He felt the alien presence behind him. but couldn't grasp it. Feeling tired from this, he asked the only one who could help him. Kurama, what is it, Kit? Ah, it's him. Don't worry, he will not harm you nor your vixens. This is your old friend. At this moment shadows before him became thicker and two red eyes appeared in darkness. Prusa Vulin, Dovakian. Good night, Dragonborn. This voice. He could never forget, yet from their last meeting it became less arrogant. Danak Voraha Hizuk Bonar, Alduin. Death made you more humble, Alduin, replied Naruto. Hidu Pa Joran Fen Mindok, Tal Zuu Fun Nader, Dovakian. Zuu Fen Dal, Einzuk Ahrk Einzuk. Ere Fal Sul du Ablan. Dar los Dii des. Heltze los hin. You of all people should know that I would never die, Dragonborn. I will return, again and again, until the day of end. This is my fate, as stopping me is yours, was the answer of Black Dragon Nistad. Fun ze favos los hi head ahrk kos gon nol dar stad. This arguing will get us nowhere. Tell me, why are you here, and be gone from this place, said Naruto. Responsible. Darin du ze nali het los vok im vosodive ahrk zuulan wa tinvok wa onwo, ol gain. Wo los valoki v fa dii fati advensicos hyphen kos gain, wo fen ofangiak ze. Ahrk gain trucus zuu los bo. Kos amen du fall vedkrasam in, rock los zukfine rock fawn. Prusa vulin einzuk, Dovakian, undwa ni duris dii dal. Krif voth hi los ofangiak ahrk hi nis dal nol dillan. The reason of me being here is simple, I'm bored and I wanted to speak to someone, as one who is responsible for my current state. You will be the one who will entertain me. And one thing before I'm gone. Be aware of the Plague Master, he is more than he seems. Good night again, Dragonborn, try to not die before my return. Fights with you are so entertaining and you cannot return from dead. Naruto growled, looking at the empty space where Alduin once was. Even dead, that fucking bastard was getting on his nerves. He couldn't believe that in some ways they were relatives. Until the dawn he stayed on guard, looking at the glowing lands of wastelands. He wasn't so sure in the chosen way anymore. Alduin may be an arrogant ass, but he never lied. Whoever this Plague Master was, he should be aware of him. Next day, a bit angry girls and Naruto reached wastelands. So, what now? Asked Helga. We will go through them. Do not touch this blue goo, stay only on rock or grounds with little of that goo on it. We will move until we pass wastelands, so no camps and stays for sleep. Move on, girls, I hope we will not meet the locals. Several hours later, tired from jumping from rock to rock and too curious to be silent, Celia asked Mirak. You said, locals, who in his right mind will live here? Mirak turned his head and glared at her. Most of the wastelands, locals are not in the right mind, the victims of magical plague, different monsters, magically changed flora and fauna, not really good conditions for living. Only runaway slaves may be there, but that's only when their former conditions were worse or they are really stupid. Latter are much more in numbers. Hey, everybody turned to Risti. I saw houses from here. Very strange, most of them are made from junk, but I must say that they are definitely humans, but others older and better looking, were defiantly built by halflings. Before Cataclysm there was halfling settlement in this area. After this shit happened, humans banished the survivors of their kind with fire and steel, but soon left this place too. Halflings created other settlement, I do not know where. It's very secluded location, good place. I was once there, made a lot of friends, said Celia. Good, maybe we can hide you there, if situation will become really bad, said Mirak. Halflings are second only to elves in archery. They are also very brave. If somebody decided to attack them, deluded by their appearance and soft behavior, that somebody will receive a very nasty surprise. Anyway, I doubt that we need to go there. I have a very nasty feeling about that, said Mirak. Settlement was on the hill, so our brave adventurers were clearly seen when they climbed up to top. This infuriated Naruto to no end. His instincts screamed about danger, and their position, so vulnerable and unprotected, only infuriated him more. When they got to settlement, his instincts started to scream loudly. He looked around. The fire was burning in fireplace, but everything was empty, silent, like all villagers just left the place. Mirak didn't know how he managed to sense him. Later he just thought that was one of Overlord perks. His body moved on its own and his hand grabbed the neck of the attacker. It was a very pale man. The rags he wore barely covered his body, showing the signs of dehydration. His veins were blue and glowed. He nearly saw like something coursed through them, and it was certainly not blood. His teeth were unnaturally sharp and eyes were completely blue. It looked like whatever coursed in veins filled them too. Even in such poor condition he was unnaturally strong. His hand with long broken nails gripped his hand with unnatural strength. If he was something else, that thing would easily break his hand, but he was the Dark One, the Dragonborn, and many other things. He will not be defeated so easily. By mere cadaver, no less. His our hand grabbed the cadaver's head and gripped. His enemy's head exploded like rotten fruit, covering him in black blood and blue goo. Good that I wear this robes, thought Naruto as demonic tentacles from his robes cleaned his form. What is this shit? Asked Risty, looking at the tentacles and cadavers. Nobody give her an answer. Circle formation near fireplace. Now, barked Mirak, and first gave them an example, getting in position. With his back turned to the fire behind him, girls quickly followed him, preparing their weapons on the run. Celia got her sword from sheath on her belt. Risty raised her shield and mace, and Helga gripped her hammer with both her hands. Cadavers were not attacking, they just waited for something, and several moments later, they found what for. Above their heads they heard growling. Several cadavers got to the roofs of the houses and prepared to jump. When we will get out of here, Risty, I will get your pretty ass for this, said Mirak. Then cadavers jumped. Mirak met them with wall of fire, burning them to ash, but other cadavers seized this moment to attack his companions, and they, unlike Naruto, didn't have the magic powers. But they managed without them. Risty and Helga just smashed enemies' heads with their weapons. A mountains of headless corpses grew near them. Celia, on the other hand, was in much more dangerous position. Her weapon of chose wasn't suitable for such a battle. She didn't had enough strength to cut their heads off. This goo, or whatever it was, reinforced cadavers' bones, and her weapons lacked in mass to shatter their bones from one hit. Mirak deemed her position dangerous enough to help her in her fight. His trophy sword, which he got from his fight with Mirak, changed its length and wrapped over his neck like a tentacle. Then in squeezed, and with a trail of blood, cadaver's head get in the air. Mirak was swinging his sword right and left, and demonic weapon made by Hermaeus Mora reaped a great harvest today. Naruto stopped only when he suddenly found that there was no one to kill. They returned to the fireplace. Girls silently looked at Naruto. He in a way became informal leader of their little team. Without a word he took a burning stick from the fireplace and threw his improvised torch into the first house. Dry wood instantly started to burn. Girls followed his example. Still in silence they picked their things, and as they were covered in goo and gore, left the burning settlement behind. Several hours later, large clawed blue hand grabbed the mud and dust. Plague Master moved it to his nostrils and made a deep breath. He smelled blood, steel and fire. Among the blood of his enemies there was also blood of his slaves. Plague Master opened his palm, letting wind to carry the dust. He whispered words of power from dark, long forgotten tongue. He smiled, showing his long sharp fangs. Next time he will know when the unwanted guests will pass the borders of his kingdom. Several days later, with Mirak and girls, Naruto sat behind the tree. Washed clothes of the girls were attached to the branches of the mighty tree. When they found this place, oasis of white magic in the ocean of chaos that were wastelands and troll swamps, they were too surprised and tired to think about it. Naruto theorized that it was holy lands once. It didn't stop girls from washing themselves and their clothes in the lake of oasis. So here Naruto was, behind the mighty oak, through the several magical amulets, looking over their sanctuary. While girls played in water, Darula through their mind link looked over the girls and commented their appearances in Naruto's mind. He interested to decide. Risty and Helga's forms were somewhat similar. They had an athletic build with small, dark marks of scars covering their bodies. Celia, on the other hand, had a pure white skin, without any scars. Her build was more elegant but certainly not weak. Mirak assumed from her appearance that her fighting style was said more on flexibility than brute power, unlike Risty's and Helga's. He didn't manage to see much of her fighting style in recent fight. He wasn't in right state of mind. when he killed cadavers and she didn't fought much. Hey Mirak, screamed Risty. What is it? What's with all those freaky tentacles? Please tell me you don't use them, when you are, with girls. Everybody judges others through the rate of their own corruption. And no Risty, those freaky tentacles are part of the robes, not me. And how did you get such robes? This is a trophy from previous Mirak. Previous. Mirak is not a name, it's more like a title. In other way, he who wears the mask through the right is Mirak. I took it from body of M defeated enemy, therefore though the right of power and conquest I am Mirak. Hey, don't be feisty, said Helga, we just want to be sure that everything is alright with you. I'm alright, thanks girls. And Helga, yes, there is a leaf on your back. Thanks am I. Why? A minute. You are behind the oak and I'm sitting with my face to it. How did you? Mirak just laughed and girls soon joined him in his laughter. That surprised him enough to stop laughing and girls just laughed on his surprise. He smiled. The last word was by them, maybe he can do something from them. Troll swamps. Next day, it took them 12 hours to reach the borders of the troll swamp, BEF. Or they entered. Naruto gave everyone the sack with torches. Fire was only thing that the rulers of that cursed land feared. They went behind each other on barely seen earth. One step aside would mean an inevitable death. Either you are eaten by some creature or sucked into the depth of the swamp. First was Mirak. With his sensory and magical abilities he would be a natural choice for the first position in their little chain. Behind him was Risty. Last was Helga, and covered by Risty and Helga, third was Celia. She didn't disagree with it. She was smart girl and she always calculated her chances for survival right. She sighed. Hers was the least in their company. Silence in this place was strange and complete. Somewhere were gulping sounds, somewhere they heard scratching, squealing and other sounds. You cannot know where the sounds were created by water and where the wild rulers of this place finished their dark deeds. After several hours swamp finally showed its teeth, long serpentine body covered by chitin. Rose from the depth of the swamp. It was one of the giant worms, his eyeless head opened like a flower showing countless teeth. Mirak reacted right away. He threw the fireball into the maw of the beast. Inside it exploded, covering our adventurers in gore and organs of the beasts. Mirak screamed to others to run. Several more bodies already rose from the swamp. But to the surprise, worms first decided deal with the body of the first worm. Girls decided to stop and catch a breath, while Mirak once again raised them to their feet. We are all covered in blood and gore of the first worm. And they were lured out by the spilled blood. So run until you feel that you are ready to vomit your lungs. Girls listened to him, but soon they were stopped once again, this time by trolls. Large creatures, which had resemblance with each other in only two things, long fangs and massive muscular built. Once in his travels, after his short romance with Meldy, Mirak met a troll named Romulos. Before their meeting he had a very biased view on his kind. Romulos had a very aggressive look and very friendly character. From him he finally heard an explanation to trolls' kidnapping habit. Because of very unstable genes, which as somebody thought gave them regenerative abilities, trolls needed to mix their blood with the blood of the species of stable genes humans, elves, gnomes circa. Unlike Amani trolls, who had no problems of pureblood marriages, many other trolls' lines after several generations of pure-blooded relations will turn into massive mutated beasts with no mind. Led only by their instincts and anger. Looking at their opponents now, Mirak understood why those trolls had an habit of eating all passing travelers. They were descendants of the trolls who migrated from Troll Mountains. And after several generations of pure-blooded relations and under the influence of harsh living conditions of this swamp, they turned into alpha, predators of this place. Powerful, unmerciful, yet mindless force. All of them bared the signs of mutations. Some were covered by scales, some had several arms, some had 2 heads. And all looked at them with very hungry gaze. Mirak cursed. Their torches were lost in the run from giant worms, and all his fire spells will burn not only the trolls, but them too. Finally he decided that it was time to play on their instincts, using his demonic powers. Only, he made a quick glance on the girls. He didn't know how his companions will manage this. At least they will be alive, thought he, and focused his killer intent. reinforced with Kurama's own on the trolls in front of him. Mutations made trolls and harsh living conditions made trolls very powerful opponents, yet without a mind they were also blind followers of their instincts. And all living creatures had a natural fear before something off-worldly, like demons for example. It was a natural safe mechanism created by evolution, before all sentient species started to study magic. Demons could be in this world for much less time. Enough for all wildlife to get away from demon, before he or she returned to their dimension. Caught off guard by the force of the person, who only moment ago was there soon to be dinner, trolls were confused, their instincts told them to run, but the smell of fresh meat nearly ordered them to stay. But when Mirak broke tea, he skull of the first two brave for his own good troll, others with low growls left them alone, when the last troll, the one whose skull Naruto broke left the place. Mirak turned to the girls, they laid on earth without consciousness. Mirak sighed, made 2 shadow clones, took Celia into his arms, while ordering his clones to carry Helga and Risti, and went to the border of the troll swamp. Till the dusk they were already past the swamp. Celia returned to her senses near Blue Lake laying on the grass, with bandaged wounds and completely naked. She instantly tried to cover herself with her arms. You shouldn't do it, you have nothing to be ashamed for. Celia turned her head to see Mirak. You are too tired from what happened on the swamp, and after effects of me using my powers still sucks power from you. His hand touched her forehead, you need to sleep. Restore your powers. Celia felt herself too tired to argue. She felt how darkness consumed her and she embraced it. At least she didn't felt pain and numbness in her body when she was asleep. Mirak sighed, her will is very strong, other girls still didn't awake from his sleeping spell. He looked at them, things will go out control soon and he didn't know will they survive long enough to pass through the hardships and became fit enough to serve as means to fulfill his plans. 2 days later they reached Danwin's walls. Tai itself wasn't giving impression of sea trade center, it appeared more like a fortress big, gray and grim. Surrounded by the ring of giant and massive walls, people of Danwin felt themselves trapped in stone prison. And this town was a residence of the law, a criminal organization, which united all assassins and thieves of northern kingdoms. Risti looked around her and a myriad of questions bombarded her mind, our cheerful, beautiful and good friend Bianca in such city. Nonsense. She preferred bright and open spaces, with beautiful architecture like Ophir, the White City, where they met for first time. And assassin. Bianca was really G-minute she could turn the most vengeful of her enemies into her closest friend. She felt that something was amiss and she also feared what she would find. Chair passing through the town's gate, Reed bribing the guards, our travailers stepped into the streets of Danwin. Poverty and filth, that's how you can describe what they saw. It seemed that streets were not clean since the day of city's founding and the number of the poor and homeless was simply numerous. They settled in the tavern. Mirak told his companions to stay inside and prepare their weapons, while he will go to the city and scout. Helga and Celia agreed to that, but Risti objected. Last time I checked I'm the thief in our little club and this is my friend we are talking about, so I'm going. Girls couldn't say, but they nearly felt how he frowned behind his mask. Somebody may recognize you Risti and then use you to lure your friend out, and about you being a thief, I was assassin. After that short argument, girls stayed at the tavern and Mirak at night left the tavern undetected. He jumped from one roof to another, from side he looked like blurred shadow, and even if somebody decided to rise his or her head, that particular somebody will decide that it was just the tricks of shadows and imagination. Mirak listened to the talks of the guards and citizens, they were all afraid because of the chain of murders of various criminals. People whispered of full-scale criminal war. Every victim was killed by black arrow to the neck and all of them belonged to the new crime band, the Hollow Sun. They established control over every thief and illegal smuggler. Realization hit Mirak suddenly, it was so obvious, but still for a newcomer it was nearly unsolvable question. Bianca was a smuggler. A few years ago, Hollow Sun was formed. It led Mirak to an obvious conclusion. Hollow Sun tried to kill Bianca, she survived and Risti told she was awesome with a crossbow. Suddenly he heard a very familiar sound, a sound of pulled bow, string. Of course in a city filled with killers and thieves such sound should not be rare, but this low sound can be produced only by one thing, massive dwarf crossbow. He instantly ran to the position where he heard the sound. He was too late. Guards were already there and victim was dead. In his neck was black arrow. What, sir? Prized Mirak was the race of the victim. It was a young dwarf. He couldn't see his face, but his sheer being in the city, which is despised by nearly all dwarf kin, was suspicious, very suspicious. Next morning Mirak told his companions about his night escapade. We need to find Bianca. Her crusade against organized crime will be for nothing. Thieves were, are and always will be, until there is a sentient life. But they are too many in numbers for her to kill. I know, that quality always beats quantity, but when there isn't enough latter, the former will prevail. I will not agree with you, Risti, said Mirak. Her crusade isn't against crime itself, it's against Hollow Sun, and with enough time and kills she may weaken them enough for their rivals to deal. She isn't some vigilante who seeks justice, she obviously wants revenge. And if you are so worried about her, maybe we can give her quality and quantity both, if we will help her. Helga smirked. So basically you are saying, that destroying organized crime is a bad thing when you are working alone and a good thing, when you are working in groups. Mirak nodded. Only under watchful eyes of professionals, and the more, the merrier. Helga's smirk grew wider. I like your line of thoughts. Celia was silent. She already understood. If Mirak decided something, he will do it. The scariest thing was, what others thought impossible was only hard to do. In Mirak, book. That scared her. Mirak's crazy imagination generated mad ideas and plans. Then he and now them made them real. Main problem was in Mirak's view. In his mind his ideas were pretty normal. It scared Celia, that one day he may be pushed to generate really crazy idea, even from his view of things. She feared that day and knew it was inevitable. She didn't knew that he already did something like this. Mirak also knew how alien his mind seemed to people of this world, so he decided to be silent about most of his escapades. He didn't want to traumatize his companions' minds. Mirak once again went to scout. This time his goal was to find Bianca. And he failed in it. Miserably. At their next meeting Risti remembered that Bianca told her about one of hideouts in this city. It was a first lead that they had. She led them to one of the entrances of city's catacombs. Bianca told her about the forgotten Teague under them. Despite his friend's high hopes, Mirak understood one thing. Finding a hidden dwarf Teague, for a human, under very deep catacombs of the Danwin, is nearly impossible. Nearly, was the key word in their case. When they entered the city, Mirak noticed a resemblance between the old buildings and walls and architecture of one certain race. Dwarves. But Grimm's style lead him to a certain conclusion. It wasn't just dwarves who built the city. It was Durgars, or as their other brethren called them, Grey Dwarves. And aggressive clans, who once swore loyalty to the Black Baron. Mirak remembered that one of the dwarf kingdoms had found something in the depth of the earth, which led to their demise. In legends it was described as living fires. So when through the deep roads they attacked the other kingdoms, attacked kingdoms just blocked the ways to them. Surrounded by enemies they knew nothing about, dwarves asked for help from Black Baron. He agreed. Blessing, which he gave them, changed them and eventually turned them into Durgars. But they managed to survive and rebuild their kingdoms. Power of darkness protected them from ancient evil. Unlike the greedy bastards, who left them to death. There is after all a reason why there is only a kingdoms of Durgars on north and kingdoms of dwarves on south. The only possible way to meet the dwarf on the north, is if he was not born underground. Dwarves rarely left their kingdoms. That is considered as something improperly to them. Such thoughts once led to the creation of deep roads, but nowadays, when all central kingdoms had fallen, travels through them became a prerogative of adventurers and treasure hunters. With ancient creatures, who once destroyed dwarf kingdoms, gone, other less dangerous, but much more great in numbers creatures took their place. Goblins, orcs, drow and many others. Usually they just used the ruins of dwarf kingdoms as places to trade, or as war camps when they went to battle the dwarves. So knowing all that information, it sounded really strange that female dwarf knew secrets of Durgar's Teague. From the words of Risti, Bianca's family came from Golden Hills, a dwarf settlement destroyed by Second Cataclysm. He highly doubted that Durgars were so generous for their concurrent, and dwarf settlement so far to north was their concurrent, so they opened the secrets of their Teagues and keeps. Doubts slowly crept into his mind and soul. Deep in thoughts he continued to walk, but even in such condition he managed to see the traps beforehand. He stepped behind, fast enough to not be pierced by 100 or so arrows. But this sudden action didn't diminish his spirit, on the contrary, it meant that they were on the right path. Several thousands of traps later, Naruto cursed the Durgars, who created this abomination. They passed a lot of traps. But still there were no secret keeps or teagues. It seemed like creators of the labyrinth just put a lot of traps in these corridors just for fun, thinking how miserable adventurers would pass this hellhole in hopes of finding treasure, only to find absolutely nothing. That was not impossible. Durgars had a very specific sense of humor. Naruto knew that Teague must be in center. Usually he was the start of all corridors. All of them united in one, which led to Teague. Half an hour later they managed to find the main corridor. It led to the massive stone gates. It was the entrance. May paired her crossbow and checked her weapons for the last time. Yesterday somebody followed her, and today a group of people had found the Teague. She sighed. Since betrayal from one of her men, she lived only for revenge. She found the culprits and the killers. All of them will one day receive a black arrow to the neck. But first she needed to survive the attack. She took a strings in her hand, preparing to activate the traps. Mirak and others tried to open massive doors. They didn't explode them only because Mirak stopped them. You didn't build them. You didn't pay for them, and you trying to explode them. If Durgars found about it, and they will make you pay generously and thank them for leaving you alive. Girls instantly remembered that all dwarves, no matter the skin color, carry a giant battle axes with them and throw them with deadly accuracy. After those thoughts they instantly decided that destruction of such magnificent doors is a barbarism, and they is cultural. People must protect the monuments of Xeno culture. So they tried to open them for half an hour already. Meanwhile Bianca started to lose her patience. She already found out through many secret spying devices created by her kind. Who were her unknown guests? She didn't let them in only in hopes for another funny speech. She already stretched her hand to push the button to open the doors. When it happened, all started from remarks like, "Use some magic, you are a mage, open it," and so on. Mirak just didn't listen to them, but with time passed his nerves just gave up, so he started to climb the large boulder, which located near the gates. Okay, how was it? Melon. No. Ah yes, that will suffice. Foos. Naruto's Thuum once again served him a great deal. But unlike last time when it just ripped his enemies to shreds, power of his Thuum just sucked into the gates. Runes covering the gates glowed and gates slowly opened. What was that? Girls instantly bombarded him with questions. Storm voice. Where I'm from, it is learned and taught by graybeards, and I was their last and most promising student. By the way, I should have remembered the old dwarf's saying long before. It would have saved us a lot of time. Old saying? Asked Helga, which is, if you can't solve it in your head, hit it with your hand. While others laughed, Celia was silent. She heard before about the powerful warrior who ripped his opponent to shreds with the might of his voice, but where? She looked around to find that her friends already started to move. She speed up a little to catch up with them. Clapping. That's what they heard when they passed the opened gates. Bravo, bravo. I expected everything except this. Good work and hello, Risti. Bianca had a very nice voice, noted Mirak. Her voice came from somewhere up them. Mirak raised his head to see a stone balcony where she sat, with her crossbow in hands. I hope you also know why we are here, stated he. If this is connected to the blonde girl, then yes, I know. I heard rumors that some crazy guys promise payment for information concerning beowolves, their powers, their relics, their families. It was hard enough after loss of their kingdom. Many thought that they were jerks, but Underworld was stable due to their domination in mercenary business. Now after Tristan's civil war and Witch's intervention, every scum tries to get the first place. Hollow Sun exists through this weakness, through the Witch's treachery. She jumped from the balcony and put her crossbow behind her back. So yes, I know why you are here, and since I already killed the bastard who betrayed me, and destruction of the Hollow Sun is not something I can do alone, I need to get out of the city too. You guys seems nice enough company, so I propose alliance. I will lead you to one of the dwarf's teegs, there we will be hidden by my friends. Deal. And what will you get from this deal? Asked Mirak. I need mostly you and in lesser extent the girls. You will help me in one deed. Also helping beowolves will come in handy. Why do you think that she is connected to beowolves? Asked Helga. Silly girl, said Bianca, from the source, which required information on them. Contracts with a bounty on her head came from this source. She is needed alive. But you, she pointed at Mirak, alive or dead. Mirak didn't ask any more questions, others too, they just followed Bianca. I found protection of the dwarves powerful enough, so I left girls alone for a while. I needed to find Bastard, who started the hunt. My motives were simple, without somebody to lead and pay them. Mercenaries will suddenly remember their place in food chain. But my planes were interrupted by sudden instability in the net of my portals, it required for me to return to the world where I was called Master Catcher just Necromancer. My return went easy, or silent. No screams, shouts, action, cut bodies, blood, simply it was boring. Naruto sighed, something was definitely wrong. Not only he was in unknown location, but he also sensed the change in the magic of this world. It felt crazy. Anyway, he found himself in a forest, he didn't know in what part of the world he was. So his first mission was to find somebody. He went for hours until finally he heard the metal clangs. Like somebody was fighting there. Naruto went in the direction of the sound. After 10 miles, Newts he found a very interesting view. His friend Knight, Commander Maria with several young females, clad in oversized Templar's armor, tried to stop the attack of Ghoul's pack. Behind Templars were women and children. Judging by their clothes, some were simple villagers and some served in churches. That actually was the reason why Templars were here, evacuating churches is their duty and prot. CTing innocence is Maria's favorite work. Seriously, most of the other Templars preferred to burn heretics. This little attachment assured Maria's sending to nearly every evacuation mission. They were rare and she always volunteered. Seeing that ghouls nearly overwhelmed defenders, Naruto decided to interfere. Maria fell to the earth under the mass of several ghouls. First lost his head from by her sword. But it stuck in the skull of the second ghoul and she couldn't get it out. Third one already opened its jaws to bite of a chunk of her flesh. Suddenly it raised its head and roared. Others repeated the actions of their leader. They lost interest in their fight and just left their wounded, bitten, powerless, but still very much alive prey. With a moan, Maria moved 2 bodies and rose to her feet. Why did they retreat? They nearly won, asked one of the Templars. They did not retreat. Maria slowly turned in direction of the voice, already knowing who she will see. Voice of her friend was very specific. They just left you to a greater predator. Behind them was Ketch the Necromancer. Maria ran to him and when she was in arm's reach she did something that Naruto never expected from her. She hugged him and cried. Looks like, whatever happened, it was really rough. Thought Naruto, trying to calm down crying woman. At this moment he didn't think that toughest Templar of this world cried in his arms. Several minutes later, fireplace. So what happened? This simple question started an uproar in the masses. It stopped by the just one move of Maria's hand. So you are telling us that you are not knowing anything? Ketch, it isn't funny. Since you are not asking me about business trip, you already understood that it was just a reason to get out of sight of powerful people. As crazy as it sounds, I was in pilgrimage. Naruto didn't lie, he was in Skyrim recently, but not for a long time. But what Maria didn't know couldn't hurt her. I almost fear to ask where your pilgrimage was, said Maria. If you are thinking what I'm thinking right now, then no, I wasn't there as dark mage. It must be really shocking to you, but I'm also a priest. With those words, world crumbled near Maria. She clearly understood that they were beyond hope. Ketch managed to return her to her senses, saying that he was a priest before. That somehow eased worries of Knight, Commander. And she started her tale. It started nearly after campaign against Picts. Our wise generals decided to find guilty one, but you were out of reach and we were too well protected. Their arguments turned into local conflicts and we missed the start of the terror. Refugees. And not just ordinary ones. Dark mages, not caring about rules they created for themselves, went to the academy. They waited until there were enough of them and just left. At those times we celebrated, We didn't think about what will happen or the reasons that made them combine their forces. We thought wrong. From south came rumors about new religion. They denied progress, burned mages, and they were complete and utter fatalists. Then another trial became. We don't know where it came from, but in several big cities started blight. Healers could do nothing. Dark powers started the blight and only they can stop it. Without a doubt dark mages sensed that and decided to flee. I cannot blame them. If they tried to warn us we would have killed them. I fear there is much more to this than you think, Maria. Anyway, I'm here and I will fight the blight and those fanatics with you. What's our next step? Asked Ketch. Castelia. Lands of my sisters. It's still not corrupted nor by blight, nor by heresy. Castelia. City of Holmar. Holmar. Main city of Kronar province. Since ancient times those lands belonged to Hagwin family. Last members of which were Maria, Anna and Helen. Triplets born at the same day. Right now main power belonged to the elder one Anna. Maria cannot inherit, since she was a Templar, and Helen, mother of his student Rodolphus, was a mage. Which meant no support from church if she becomes a ruler. Anna was an optimal solution. She was a strict but honest ruler and 12 years ago gave birth to a healthy baby girl, thus giving an heir to her power. In Castelia inherites the elder child, gender does not count. If twins or triplets were born, then trials for the right to rule will be upheld. Or sometimes, other heirs are not suitable. Like in our cause. Right now Ketch couldn't afford himself to relax. He alongside with Helena and Rodolphus, who hid it here from Helena's deceased husband's relatives. We're trying to save the victim of the blight. Fact that she was only diseased in entire province put Ketch on edge, since their patient was Angela Hagwin, daughter of Anna Hagwin and heir to the Duchess' crown. If it wasn't for Rodolphus he wouldn't even be here. Only words of his student gave him a chance to prove himself. His mother on the other side still wanted to kill him. He couldn't understand why. But deduced it was the hatred to dark mages in general. With Helen being a healer it was especially clear. So, Rodolphus, what can you say me about this blight? Asked Ketch. It's very strange, master. At this moment Helen grit her teeth with such a force, that rasping sound could be heard by entire city. It starts nearly without a reason. People can stay with diseased one for weeks and not catch the infection. And suddenly became ill in completely clean area like Angela over there. It also has a strange symptoms, red spots on genitalia area. Genitalia area, something. G clicked in Ketch's mind. Dark mages in great numbers, blight that cannot be healed by normal means. Yes, Rodolphus, we are fools. Why so, master? Sigh. Bring everyone here and find Nay a glass jar. Everyone stayed in circle around the bed with ill girl. Ketch draw strange glowing symbols on the jar. I need you to pour your energy into the child when I start the extracting process. Now Rodolphus look carefully what you must do. Quote, under the eyes of everyone in the room Ketch hand transformed. It became clawed, covered in some sort of red energy and simply made of this strange power, Maki. Everyone gasped. Demonic arm pierced the child abdomen. Ketch slowly moved his hand there like he tried to found something he needed in a bag full of poisonous snakes. Finally a fanged smile told Young that he found something. He started to slowly pull his hand back. Each millimeter was very hard for necromancer. He felt like he tried to raise a mountain. Normal human would have already gave up before such a tisk. Just from the feeling of impossible. But whatever was inside the girl, it didn't deal with normal human, it dealt with somebody who turned impossible into possible on daily basis. Finally Ketch managed to pull something out of girl's body and soul. He only managed to see a long snake-like body before he put it into jar. While everybody took care of the girl, Ketch managed to have a better look on his captive. It seemed like long ebonite centipede, but when Ketch looked into its eyes, he quickly understood that it was no mere insect. In its eye he saw a vile, alien intellect. Good only for destroying things. Everything was as he feared. Ketch sighed. Unfortunately his sigh brought an unwanted attention to his person. That was in Wynice. He turned to see Maria, looking at the jar in his hand. Yes, said Ketch, those things are a reason of blight. Now, when we have one mages we'll be able to stop the blight. With Maria's words everybody in the room cheered. Except Ketch. He raised a jar in his hand. Do you know what it is? No, it's a demon, very strange one, but a demon no less. You will need an exorcists or a better solution, demonologists, to solve this problem. Why? Why what? Why demonologists are a better solution? Because unlike exorcists, demonologists know much more about the demons. The only goal of exorcists, at least the ones I saw, is to save the soul. Death of the body is collateral damage to them. Anyway, it's too late. Blight is spreading. Exorcists are too little in numbers and demonologists were banished from Orson years ago. I fear that we are doomed. Doomed. Maria was a bit shaken by Ketch's monologue. It's just the disease we will prevail. Ketch turned his hooded face to her. It's not just the blight. It's not just the heresy. It's not just the chaos. There is only one thing, which could made all dark mages to unite, not caring about the rules. This tame spoke Helen. Which is? Asked she. Ketch turned his back to them and looked into the window at the rising sun. A full-scale demonic invasion. Naruto looked at the people from Castle's balcony. From such height everything seemed so peaceful, calm. Like everything in the world was right. But Naruto knew better. Half of the kingdom is suffering from blight, other half is being ravaged by fanatical followers of new religion. Dark mages are missing, and this world will soon face the demonic invasion. And once again he was the only one capable of saving the day. So much for being the new Overlord. If his ancestors would finally act like normal ones and not like ancient death, cheating dark lords, Naruto was sure they would already roll in their graves, crypts, whenever they were buried or met their final battle. But for one time in his life he was happy. That most of his relatives are not normal, they wouldn't know about him playing hero in this world. He sighed. It would be so easy to left all this people to themselves and just return to Netherworld, but his sense of duty, backed by territorial instincts of the Dark Lord, made him stay. Ketch. He turned to see Maria. Are you all right, Maria? We are dealing with demonic invasion, blight and war in name of faith. Dark mages are missing and they are the only ones who are capable of saving us now. So I'm not all right. He turned and walked back into the castle. We need to understand how they are brainwashing people into their cause. Ketch. He turned his head a little. Maybe they just, believe. You will be surprised, Maria, but usually between faith and comfort, strangely most people chose comfort. Quote, and what about minority? We are not on theological dispute. I will be in laboratory, trying to get answers from our unwilling participant. Laboratory. Naru. To never understood why grim places like this made him serene and peaceful. He deduced connected with him being on a top food chain of dark creatures, or maybe he was just insane. Both were true in a way, but he couldn't tell which more. He slammed his fist into the table in frustration. Problems. Since their last meeting Maria greatly improved in stealth arts. Or he became too careless. Personally, Naruto preferred Maria's progress. For careless Overlord is dead Overlord. Naruto once again looked at the jar with demon. I need something. He finally said. Oh, what is it? Asked Maria. Rather who? Replied Naruto. I need my wife for this. Maria was dumbstruck. Sorry, what do you need? Naruto sighed. Are you deaf? I said that I need the help of my wife. You are married. Yes, to the one of the daughters of Succubi Queen. That's actually explains everything. Naruto went to the table to get needed ingredients. I will summon her to this world and deal with demons' torture. Together we will find out who is responsible for this atrocity. 10 minutes later Naruto stood near glowing pentagram and chanted spells of summon. With loud explosion, room was filled with red East and in the center of pentagram a beautiful silver-headed woman appeared. She opened her black and red eyes and said, well, hello dear. Castle. Main chamber. Maria looked at Darula and silently compared the two of them. Darula won at everything, and what was more infuriating, she noticed Maria's gaze. In return she just smirked and got closer to Ketch. That infuriated knight, commander to no end. Her friend deserved someone better than that slut, someone rational, noble, someone like herself. She returned to her senses because of someone touched her arm. She turned her head to see Rodolphus. He slowly shook his head. Maria turned her gaze away from him. Her nephew became much sharper in romantic field recently. She once again listened to Ketch's speech. Results of our information gathering let us conclude that those little demons and fanatics are first stage of real invasion. demons will spread the disease, fanatics will spread the cure, destroying anyone who dared or managed to stay against them, or pose them a threat in future. But if the situation is like this, what shall we do? Asked Alluviette. I managed to contact all dark mages. They are coming here as we speak. They will help sharper our defenses and raise our chances to stop the plague. While they will build our defenses under Lady Anna's supervision, we will deal with fanatics. He looked at them and asked Ed the question that he wanted to ask for a long time. Who will tell me how it started? It started at last winter. Small cult of Ermine and Legda came to the kingdoms. White robes of their followers were a bit eye-catching. But they brought wheat with them, in white bags for their families and in gray for trade. After poor harvest it was a lifesaver. And then a plague started and families of the priests were spared. They used it to proclaim their religion as a true one. Several months later religious crisis reached its peak. Cult nearly consumed the kingdoms, their hatred for progress and magic spread with them. Different bags, I presume white ones were usual wheat and gray were poisoned with magical plague, said Ketch while scratching his chin. And what about their unnatural popularity? We presume that it's some kind of magical artifact, said Anna. No shit, Sherlock, without a doubt it's some sort of an artifact, but what it is, how it works, and how to stop it, that's our top questions. He stood up and went to his room followed by Darula. Upstairs. My lord. Slender arms hugged him from behind. You need to rest. He turned his face to hers and kissed her deeply and passionately. I need you, now. Laughing she fell to the bed followed by Ketch and for a while they forget about every problem and just enjoyed the presence of each other in every possible way. Downstairs. Maria angrily grabbed her cup and tried to calm down. Since that slut and Ketch went upstairs, she couldn't suppress the boiling anger and frustration. She couldn't understand why, but when Veer woman appeared near Ketch she always felt a desire to smash that woman to a bloody pulp. Hearing that moans from upstairs just became louder, she grabbed a cup and a bottle and decided to enjoy it in silence of her room. Upstairs. Once again, Ketch and Darula laid upon the wet blankets after several hours of their exercises. Dear, started Darula, I need to tell you about something. What is it? After our marriage and creation of dimensional rifts, many clans of succubus decided that through achieving the powers of dragons and dark lords, they could challenge my family over position of royal one. They started to search and acquire different objects that related to dragons and dark lords. Among them one group found a really strange rumor, about being like no other, about Bahamut. Bahamut, yes, creature of immense strength in form of a dragon. He, who, is, the, end, of, all. And a bunch of fools want to return him. Such a cliché. Yes, before times immemorial, he was sealed by demons and angels. And after his return, he will do what he must, what is needed for his freedom. Asked Ketch. Pieces of different dragon lineages scattered across the multiverse. One of them is already in your hands. Powers of Dovahkiin, the Dragon Slayer. Commented Naruto. Yes, and other powers must be found and obtained by you before they will manage to destroy the barrier that holds Bahamut captured. And you started that conversation because if I, accidentally, got myself summoned to another world I can gather intel for you. Naruto raised his hand and gently touched her cheek. Beautiful, deadly and smart, you are truly everything I ever wanted in my wife. Darula giggled. Such a flatterer. By the way, before you summoned me I also found a path to your homeworld and also managed to duplicate the guild seals from your Albion relative's secret base, continued Darula. You need to get your girls there, it's much safer than Bianca's secret teague. I fear that witches from Confronting will not stop until they will have her body for study. Those wretched, old and perverted hags. They will not stop until they have their way. Their arrogance will be the downfall of this world. Growled Naruto. By the way, I'm not the only one who found the way to Konoha, right? Emperor is already on his way. How fast will he get there? Fast enough for you to prepare defenses against the plague and indoctrination and get Celia and others away from the danger to Albion's safe heaven. And after all that you still will manage to get there first. Then let's prepare, said Naruto raising himself from their bed. Week later, while his minions attached different parts of his armor to him, Naruto thought, about recent events and eventual confrontation with his father. He managed to create a protective circle through enchanting border fortresses. Dark mages also gave an additional boost to defenses of the Anna's lands. Celia and others were even grateful for change. Sitting in Old Teague was very upsetting. They couldn't get to other populated Teagues because of the bandit scouts. After elimination of first group, they decided to not risk themselves and wait for him. Wise strategy. Naruto felt how large crown-like helmet was placed on his head. He once again saw a world like all Dark Lords before him did, through the veil of darkness. Sire. Naruto turned his head to see his trustful advisor Gnarl. Why you wanted us to clothe you? You can do it faster through your magic, like you usually change weapons. The answer is simple. Because I feel badass. While parts of this awesome armor are placed on me. In his hands appeared his most favorite sword. And when I summon weapons from what appeared as nothing, I feel myself even more badass. Said Naruto while he made few thrusts with Warlock. And now he looked upon the frozen tundra where the rift was spotted. Somewhere far away he felt the presence of his father. Fool was arrogant. Enough to s not aware that Naruto already prepared the trap. Minato followed the trace of the rift, which could lead him to Konoha. There he will once again assemble his allies, and together with his son he will crush anyone who dared to oppose his new empire. Minato smiled. Naruto will defiantly like new addition to the family. He saw the glowing light from the rift on one of the snow hills. He slowly climbed to the top, and finally he saw him, giant menacing figure, clad in black hellish armor. Cold wind tossed his black cloak on his shoulders, and it seemed that piece of primordial darkness followed him. Minato couldn't see his face, but his eyes, two glowing red orbs filled with unlimited hatred, were focused on him. He didn't know why, but something told him that hatred was reasonable. You came. Booming voice came out of the dark space behind the helmet. It took you longer than I thought. Step aside. Minato put a hand on the hilt of his sword. I will not repeat myself twice. Such arrogance. Such blindness before the truth. Think Namikaze. I'm your enemy, I need to kill you. Do you think that I will come unprepared? Naruto raised his sword and bright stream of blue RGY hit the skies. It spread and turned into a dome of blue energy. Here your Hirishin is useless. Choose your next action wisely, Namikaze. It can be your last. Minato just unsheathed his sword, Naru, to raised his warlock to parry the first strike. Minato tried to get closer to the rift, but blasted creature was too strong for him to deal with. He parried every strike and predicted every move like he is reading my thoughts. No, you are just predictable, old man. Naruto kicked him to the knee, making him fall. You committed so many evils, but always stayed so white and uncorrupted, like nothing happened. Namikaze crawled to the rift. You really think that I will let you get away? Asked Overlord. No, but this will. Minato stretched his hand to the rift and activated it. They appeared on the busy street of Konoha. Minato with his wounds leaking blood on the ground and Naruto's massive figure behind him. Look, it's the fourth. I knew that dealing with demon will give us good fortune, said one of the villagers. Look, who is that giant behind him? Demon. What do they mean? Muttered Minato. You truly don't understand. They mean Naruto. Overlord planted his massive armored boot on the Minato's spine. My son. Those two words silenced everyone. It can't be true. And demon cannot be son of beloved Yondaime-sama. Were heard everywhere. Naruto didn't even blink when Omething jumped at him for a complete surprise of everyone phased through him. Ninja landed behind Naruto and Minato. Get away from the sensei. Barked Shinobi. Kakashi. What happened to Naruto? Asked Minato, seeing his student look away, avoiding his gaze. Don't be so naive, Minato. They used the first chance to portray him as betrayer, as demon. They betrayed everything you sacrificed for their own gain. No, it can't be. Tried to deny the reality forth. Yes, I used this rift to show you the consequences of your decision. I alerted it a bit. You cannot truly return to this dimension without my approval. But I can also do something like this. Agaga. Minato's arm was severed near the elbow. Spraying blood everywhere from his severed arm, Minato struggled and screamed under Overlord boot. See it, understand it and feel it, how everything you sacrificed and died for was just a mere illusion. By a move of his arm, realm near them shattered and Minato was once again laying on the cold snow that slowly turned red. Rift slowly turned into glowing ball of energy. Massive armored glove absorbed it. You will not be able to return to Shinobi World, you can return only after I lift the barrier, and you will remember how your world shattered before you. I will cherish this moment till my last breath. Minato looked at the dark figure which slowly disappeared in the blizzard. He heard how cloak of his enemy clapped on the wind, and to his ears it seemed like mocking laugh. He bit his lip until blood started to flow. Pain from it returned him to the harsh reality. I will deal with them. All of them. Betrayers from Konoha. This dark freak and everyone. I will return my son. I will have my family whole again, thought Minato. He activated his emergency portal and half an hour later he faded into darkness, thinking about his situation. With Naruto, teleportation didn't work well. It led Naruto to a crater in earth. Burned figure lied in it. The only thing that was somewhat of value was a burnt ring. Naruto touched it with his massive glove. With a spark of lightning, glove consumed the ring. From violent pain Naruto fell to his knees. When he opened his eyes, world once again changed. Everything around him was gray. Behind you, said a disordered voice. Naruto turned to see a figure clad in black cloak and dark armor. On his head was some sort of a crown, helmet. Who are you? Asked Naruto. People once called me Witch King, was reply from dark figure. Witch King, who served Sauron the Dark, right hand of Morgoth. I heard that you are dead. And what are you doing here? Asked Naruto. And where is here, actually? After my defeat from the hands of female warrior, my body was sent into the sky and fell like a blazing meteor. My wounds were mortal even for a wraith. All I could do is attach myself to somebody, who will take my ring. For several hundred of years I waited, until you came. And what will your powers do for me? My powers turned you into half, wraith. Power will return you back to this world. If you will be killed, your body will dissolve and reform once again. Like a biju, muttered Naruto. Good, you can stick around. I hope without you in this crater I will manage to get out of here. Tower, it's really good, sire, that you managed to acquire powers in aid of such worthy creature of darkness. Powers of LF Wraith will come in handy in your conquest. I thought about it. We need spy network. I will go to Shinobi World once again. I already know someone, who will work with me. Naruto raised his hand, and image of Hyuga Hinata appeared in it. Hinata-chan, so innocent and sweet, nobody will suspect her, as my secret agent. Brilliant, sire, absolutely brilliant. I will deal with this later. Right now I need to help Celia. Leaving such a pretty girl to herself, isn't an act of a gentleman. Albion, Hero Guild. While Mirak left them in secret hideout, Celia never expected that he had contacts in Albion. Especially of such high standing, girls prepared themselves for new journeys and trained with new weapons. Pistols and rifles were new to them, but they were professionals in killing. Such interesting thing, said Bianca, firing bullet after bullet in the center of the target. My kind already created powder, but such interesting construction, it's a bit too elegant, but cannons. I cannot understand why our clans still didn't create them. Maybe it's for better. While Albion has these weapons, nobody tries to conquer them, and they have no need in colonies. But if such weapons became worldwide, I'm sure nothing good shall come from this, said Risti. Their progress is not only terrifying thing, said Helga. Look at this beautiful sword in my hands, such balance, such powerful steel. And I'm not talking about their medicines. And what about their poverty? I'm not even talking that you will not be able to be a warrior here. They would shun you for having tanned skin. No offense dear, you look really sexy. But they without a doubt try to sell you into slavery or do some other nasty things, said Celia. Helga sighed, when suddenly she felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned her head to see Mirak. Don't lose your spirit, dear, it's good that you believe in people. Only true believers like you can change this world, for better or for worse. Helga blushed and smiled. Thank you, Mirak. Prepare yourselves, we will train on Hobbs. Destruction of those little bastards will be good for us and for omens later. Bianca was in her position with her crossbow in hand. Near her was Celia, who prepared her rifle. Risti and Helga prepared their heavy weapons, while Mirak attached himself to the ceiling of the cave. He felt how dark powers of the wraith surged through his body. Mirak jumped on the leader of the Hobbs. He felt how brown flesh burned under his touch. He felt how his soul slowly succumbed to his will. Hobbs slowly rose up and faint glowing in high. Eyes was only indication of Mirak's accomplishment. That enlarged burn mark in form of a hand. Good, good. Our power and legacy lives on. They are no orcs, but a true dark horde starts with something, said a familiar voice behind him. Hobbs, disgusting creatures, but they are many in numbers. Such resources will be wasted, if I will not find them place in my empire. Good. You know, what you must do next. Dark shadow of which, King slowly dissolved into nothingness. I will cover this world in dark nets of my empire. He turned his back to the place where the spirit was and slowly walked to the girls. I finally found a new member to our little group. Her name is Priscilla. She is half elfin mercenary for hire. She also is a sort of a rebel. She works with Almira, a female peer. Aiden, a captain of all-female pirate crew. They have problems with local authorities and bands under Hollow Sun. If we deal with their problems, not only will we have one of the best archers of the kingdoms, but also backing of one of the luckiest and wealthiest pirates. This is just what we need, said Celia. More allies is better for us. With witches on my tail, we need every possible help. While girls agreed with Celia, Naruto couldn't get rid of strange feeling of dread in his chest. Later in Proga's town, with Naruto, his harem and Almira's band. Naruto looked at lying female bodies in different state of nakedness and couldn't decide is his regeneration a curse or a blessing. Of course, counting that he wasn't part of debauchery that continued around him was a bit bad for him, but he didn't want to get into awkward situation, like getting up in one bed with a person who sat in front of him, completely naked. Knowing mischievous nature of said person, he knew that something like that may happen. Don't be such a party killer. Catch. Smile a little. With loud banging sound, metal chest plate landed on their table. Looks like they finally get to real deal, said Angie, looking at the dancing drunk Celia. Shouldn't we try to stop her? Let her be, it will be a good lesson for her, replied Naruto. Don't drink with pirates, especially with friendly ones. Why? Trust me in this question, brother. Friendly female pirates always will lead to something big. Oh, I see, said Angie, looking at Risty and Helga, who under clapping and whistles of the crew ripped clothes from each other and washed themselves in alcohol. Turn your head here, brother. You are a bit too young to see something like that. Okay. Angie raised his hands in submission. Suddenly expression on his face became serious. What will you do about Queen of all? Asked Angie. Naruto groaned. Queen of all, also known as the greatest bitch and most powerful witch. Leader of the circle on Kunshan. Main hater of their kind and very powerful sorceress. I will deal with her, replied Naruto. Right now her position isn't as powerful as before. Her actions during the Civil War and now Agai. NST Beowolves slowly rallying her enemies together. Her main strength is her Amazon guards. Amazons? Asked Angie. Yes. Many years ago during Celestial Crisis, you know, when gods lost connections with this world. Part of Amazons started to serve witches and others started to worship demons and slowly turned into Oni. Interesting, but why are you telling me this? Asked Angie. As you know, Amazons hail from cult of female warriors who worshipped one goddess. Right now her name is already forgotten, but it's vaguely known that she gave Amazons inhuman speed, strength and regenerative powers. Technically she created a new race with human appearance. They were like us in a way. Amazons lost their contact with a goddess during the Celestial Crisis like all other believers. And since she was the source of blessing, newborn in other words, they couldn't replenish their ranks when their neighbors decided to repay for their attacks. Naruto took his cup and made several big gulps to clear his throat. At those times two sisters ruled over them. One decided to become a vassal to current head of the circle, in return to so-called Bellatine rituals. Isn't it the once used to raise the potency of sperm for males and fertility for females? Yes, but they were given the variant where female can grow male organs. Oh, I heard about that one. Rumors say that it was given to witches by the goddess of lust herself. Truth is much more boring. Some of the witches were just too sick of males or just too perverted, and finally it resulted in such ritual. So, why all this lection? Most interesting part starts now. Since those times passed several hundred years, ritual was incomplete or without support from their goddess. They started to slowly degenerate, I think that will be proper term. During the start out a 3 children ritual gave them 2, warrior, class or normal Amazons and worker, type, ordinary female. Right now warrior Amazons slowly reduce in numbers, worker type outnumber them 3 to 1. And all of them nearly worship witches from Kunshan. So you plan to start a rebellion? No, civil war will have drastic consequences. But I heard that one leader of Oni tribe slowly started to unite other tribes under her banner. She of course will need weapons and other kinds of support. With those words Naruto showed his brother a beautiful katana, which he got from his personal pocket dimension. This will be one of my gifts enchanted and crafted by myself. Plan to win her over with gifts. I don't think that will happen. It will not. I already know that she is patient. It can wait until I deal with Gramps. You call monster, who lives on the north, your Gramps. What have you? Ah, yes, it's you, so it fits perfectly. I think so too. They're tall. Kay was once again stopped by a pair of half-naked girls, who kissing passionately, fell on their table. Furniture crumbled under their combined weight and after dust cleared, Naruto managed to recone. Eyes ever so silent Helga on top of one of the girls from Elmira's crew. That was rather unexpected. Never thought that she is so daring, commented Naruto. Yes, she strikes either like noble and silent warrior, or like a bit shy girl. But this, we must do what we must, brother. Which is, put it in history annuals of course. Can you use your magic to record this or something? Of course, said Naruto activating his recording spell. I will not miss something like this. While my magic records everything that happens here, let's take care about business. Angie smiled. Blood and gore, like good old days. I missed it. Yes brother, blood, gore, flames and steel. Sometime later. You sure it's all right? Asked Angie, while he sat crossed-legged, on the table. Which one of us is the torture specialist? You brother. But you haven't even asked them anything. That's the greatest thing Angie, I don't need to ask. I already know everything. This conversation continued, while Naruto methodically tortured a gang of thieves, who they found in one of their hideouts. So you are torturing them just because they are a bunch of jerks? Basically, yes. Said Naruto, finally killing his victim. Now, I always wanted to see what will happen to a human if you put his head into his ass. Several minutes later. So, how long till we stop? Asked Angie. Don't be a crybaby, I still have a lot of Molotov cocktails and I know just the place we will party with it. Several burned hideouts later. Brother, we should really return. Nah, we still didn't try the main event. Main event. Mirak got 2 pairs of black sunglasses and a pack with X-Play. Will walk away like bosses in these sunglasses, after we will explode something really big. Anyway brother, where did you get all that things? I'm a demon, bro. I have my ways. Several moments later, near the inn where the crew partied, a cloaked figure slowly took of the said cloak, revealing a female with pointy ears, dust colo. Red skin and long silver hair put in ponytail. She looked over the building and put her hands on her dual blades behind her back. Arachne, one of the greatest killers in service of her mother. Since her Aunt Discordia became a concubine of the emperor and gave him daughter, her cousin Chloe, her side of the family started to plot against her mother. Being the matriarch was always troublesome. Thus she was forced to do many shady deals. One of them was sending Arachne on assassination missions. So-called Pirate Queen was in her black list. It was a happy coincidence that Celia, who had a price on her head, was also there. Great Witch will be pleased, maybe enough to help her mother, and with mother happy Arachne will finally manage to afford herself a vacation. Crew was drunk as were Celia's teammates. It was nearly perfect until she saw him. He was strange, looked like a priest of some ancient cult, but everything that made her dark elf nearly screamed in her that he was dangerous. And Arachne always listened to her instincts. She waited until he left with only other man and slowly went to the tavern. When she opened the door and stepped inside, she disappeared in bright flash of light. Arachne cursed while her sensitive eyes tried to adjust after blinding light. For several minutes she just sat on the dirty floor, helpless. She was vulnerable and this angered her. Being vulnerable isn't something that could be afforded in Dark Elves society. She slowly turned her head to her right, trying to understand where she was. He sat there, right on the table with his legs crossed. Man in mask. Well, my dear, he unsheathed his sword. You were in really deep shit. His sword reminded her a bit about rapier. She smirked. She was never beaten by practitioners of such style. Her smile vanished. When I in the guard of the sword opened and masked one used it as whip. She nearly evaded his strike and ducked when elongated blade started to shorten. Naruto stood firmly, half turned to his opponent. With left hand behind his back, she jumped forward with swords in reverse grip, prepared to impale Naruto on them. Her left blade was blocked by Naruto's demonic sword, and right, by strange dagger, which he hid behind his back. Arachne just glanced over it and quickly understood that even a scratch from something like this will kill her, and she was right. Dagger of dragon priests drunk a lot of blood. You are good, but you will not claim any bounties here. Return where you came from or face your death here, said Naruto. Arachne knew that it was no empty threat. Her opponent was deathly inaccurate. She was great in art of killing, but behind him, she felt might that cannot be defeated by anything she got in her arsenal. She hesitated, calculating her chances. It was enough for him to get her blades out of her hands. Spinning, they stabbed into the ceiling. His blades crossed near her throat. Yield. She gripped something in her hand. A light blinded Naruto. When he opened his eyes, only holes above him reminded about assassin. Arachne tried to calm herself. Even if it wasn't official duel, it happened. She was defeated, and by ancient law of noble Dark Elves clans, she was now his bride. Law stated that only worthy one, who defeated Drow woman in her favorite field, can be her true husband. Not consorts like matriarchs usually had. No, a true one, as in family where she will not have absolute power. But since most Drow women lost their heads after defeat, such thing was a rare occurrence. She looked at the town from nearby hill where her camp was. Now she must take care of him. If he dies while she could prevent it, their goddess, whose joke was that despicable law, will punish her. Joker, not only madman, will decide to against the goddess will. And Arachne wasn't an idiot. Next morning Celia woke up with massive headache. She moved her left hand trying to raise herself, only to grab something soft and warm. She instantly opened her eyes. Next to her was Almira. Her bright red hair covered everything near her. Celia tried to move, but unimaginable pain in her ass made her fell back to the bed. Almira still slept, snoring even louder than before. Clank. Hing her teeth from pain, Celia managed to clothe herself and slowly got downstairs. Ha ha, never thought that I move so well when I'm drunk. Heard she Helga's voice. She finally reached the main hall. In front of her were her friends and part of Almira's crew. They all sat before the giant hollow screen, courtesy of Mirak, without a doubt. On the screen she saw Helga and Risti giving lap dances for members of the screw. Hey, where was I when this happened? Heard she Bianca's voice. You were snoring on the table after drinking competition, was reply of Mirak. Bianca turned her head to see Celia. Hey look, it miss backdoors. Backdoors. Raised her eyebrow Celia. After the click of Mirak's fingers, image changed. Now it was Celia, under Almira, fucked in the ass with big black strap-on, screaming for her to not stop. Celia face-palmed. This actually explained the pain. Like I already said, don't drink with the pirates, especially with red-haired pirate queens, said Mirak, smiling. Of course, hidden behind his mask. Nobody could see his smile. Yeah, I should listen to you more often, said Celia, standing before them. Maybe you should sit down, smiled a small girl with pointed ears, blonde, green hair, giant bow behind her back and clad in strange clothes. Celia looked at her with her signature glare, but girl just smiled. This is Primera. She was in Almira's debt, and after I helped our dear pirate, I took her debt as reward. Now we have another marksman in our group. And it's good, said Bianca. My crossbow is for mid and close range battles, but her bow will serve as well nearly everywhere. Celia nodded, and turned her gaze to Mirak. He told them that he plans something great, so witches will think it's too dangerous to deal with her, but what will be T? He did, nor why does he need to assemble such a team, she didn't know. Next evening they sat near the fire. Celia looked how light from the flames strangely reflected from his golden mask. You want to know? He didn't ask, he stated. Yes, replied Celia. Tell me, what do you plan to do? Ever heard about the Terror of the North? Yes, Queen Sawani offered a very high reward for the brave warrior, who will slay him. That and baking of the whole Norska. Celia actually looked frightened after that. Wait a minute, so that is your plan? To kill the Terror? Are you mad? Mirak just raised his arm, silencing her. Don't worry, for I have a plan. Terror was once defeated by 7 heroes. Their weapons are sealed in the ancient crypt. And I need 7 descendants of said heroes to defeat him. Because only they can use their weapons. That actually brightened Celia's mood. So 2 more? Asked she. Yes, replied Mirak. 2 more. Now sleep. Tomorrow we will reach ancient Stonehenge. I will use it to empower the guild seal and send you to Albion. Several days later, Oni Forest. Rena looked over the green massive of Oni Forest. Young Oni thought about her cause. She wanted to unite Oni tribes. She had power to do so. But she lacked support, training and proper weaponry. She made a sip from her bottle with sake and sighed. Such ambition and power, and she still couldn't have what she wanted. She poured her cup with sake and automatically poured the second one, held by the hand clad in dark glove, ornamented with strange scales. Sake was instantly forgotten. She jumped backwards, cursing herself for being careless. She observed her new opponent. Golden mask, dark robes, strange sword on his belt. Oh, please, I'm not here to hurt you. Rena snarled. Really? And why are you here? Well, I heard Oni tried to unite the clans, but was exiled before her plan was executed. So what? I will deal with it. I will surpass anyone and prevail over everyone. I will not stop until I become the Oni queen. Mirak applauded. Good, truly good. He turned her back to her. What if I told you that there is a person who wants to sponsor your project? By the move of his hand, black portal appeared near him. He stretched his arm in her direction. Female Oni looked troubled. Who will help me and why? Come with me and you will understand everything. She stretched her left hand. Rena knew that alone she will die soon, despite all her courage. Her opponents will just send assassins after her. How shall I call you? Asked Rena after passing through darkness of the portal. She paused a bit when she saw a new look of her benefactor. He looked upon her clad in dark armor and covered by black cloak. His metal helmet, crown protected his head, and unnatural darkness under it completely masked his identity. Call me Overlord, Rena, for this is what I am. Imperial Palace. Keep him restrained, before he managed to hurt himself. Pain. Pain became his everything. After Dark Lord severed his arm, Minato managed to teleport to the palace. First days he didn't even feel anything. Only week later, when it was too late to do anything. Best healers of Empire tried to save the Emperor. They used many methods, but in the end all of them agreed in one thing. Without magical energy of the who severed the arm or something close to it, it's impossible to heal the injury. So Minato laid on his bed in his personal chambers, while his daughters from his elven wives stood before him. Chloe, his daughter from Discordia, was very close to her mother in appearance, only difference was her golden hair. Like her father's, Riveria, his daughter from Celestine, was a younger copy of her mother. Cough, cough, come closer, daughters. Both women loved their father dearly. He, the man who alone managed to restore the empire to its former glory, was epitome of greatness to them. So seeing him so weak, so fragile, was something new to them, and it scared both of them. I was too overconfident. It cost me my arm. He sighed and continued. But my naivety had far greater cost. As you know, I once told you and your mothers that I came from other world, where I held position similar to a king or warlord. What I didn't tell them was that I was married and had a son. Long story short, those who vowed to care about him betrayed me. They nurtured hatred against all I hold dear in him. Father, interrupted Chloe, how can this influence our mission, and what is our mission? Your mission is rather simple. Your brother came to this world with very simple intention, to kill me. I finally put everything together. My enemies will help him to have his revenge, and through him they will have theirs. But father, why will he want to kill you? As I already told you, my world isn't as good as this one, and my son saw every dark and ugly sides of it. He has reasons to hate, but he also doesn't know me. if that's what you are asking about, to him I'm not a father, just another name of his target. Sighed Namikaze. Anyway, had you ever heard about Terror of the North? Asked he. Queen Sawani put a bounty on its head, that alone means trouble, she is too powerful and prideful to ask for help. Answered Chloe. Yes, but if you manage to weaken this creature, took a bit of it here, its power can heal my wound. Also if you manage to put it down, bring it to Ash, Queen of Freljord. She is Sawani's main rival for recreation of Arctic Kingdom, said their father. Then our mission is to, started Riveria before being interrupted by her father. To find a cur, for me, just don't forget to pursue the opportunities, it can be that after your return you will find only my dead body. Confrontation Empire. Great Witch's Chambers. Philippa Eilhart, the current Great Witch, sat in her chambers and looked at the night sky from her window. She sapped a wine from a glass in her hand and looked back at the bed where several young and naked witches slept. It was good to be a great witch. However, like all great witches before her, Philippa needed to leave an heir. Or her to be strong, capable of surviving in this rough world, she like all her predecessors before her needed to mate with wild mage. Birth of such individual was a rarity, so whenever he appeared Conclave instantly tried to capture him. However, Philippa was very young when Wild Mage made his first appearance. She was ambitious and didn't understand her duty. She didn't pursue him and she paid the great price. She is nearly out of shape, 3 more years and she will not be able to produce a child. She already silenced several doctors so her secret was kept safe. She desperately needed the Wild Mage and she was prepared to pay any price. However, she had another matters. Beowolves slowly prepa, read to rise against her. It was as clear as day, something happened in Amazon Kingdom. Unknown power rose in Wastelands and Alnus Empire, which was a trusty ally through several hundred years of her rule. After the death of previous emperor and rising of the new became really greedy for new territories. And strange rumors about war preparations in Albion were like a final nail into the coffin of bright future of Confrontation Empire. Philippa placed the glass with wine on table and returned to bed. She needed rest, while she still could get some. Behind the door to her chambers one silver-haired succubus walked into the shadows. Husband will be very pleased when he heard this. Very. Netherworld Tower. Overlord Chambers. Naruto sat before the table and in front of him across the table sat Darula. So, old bitch nearly lost. What about her inner circle? Asked Naruto. Her apprentice wants her position for herself, lodge is divided between her and Philippa. Civil war is upon them, replied Darula. So, when our plans in Amazon Kingdom will become reality, lodge will break in two. Isn't it right, Rina-chan? Young Oni stepped from the shadows with her new black katana. Everything will be as you wish, my lord. Bet we still need to get those forges from your forefathers' possession to arm our army, said Rina. Good. While my scouts search for another potential candidate into our team, I will return to the kingdoms to deal with the cult of Ermin and Legda and with demonic invasion. Kingdoms. With Rodolphus. Young heir mage sighed. They still managed to protect the borders of his aunt's territories. But when refugees heard about this safe haven, roads instantly swarmed with them. With their reserves being cut at least in half because of wartime, plague and unrest, his on. T decided that border fortresses must not let any refugees into the country. Rumors that came from the countries where cult became too strong, cultists finally get what they deserved aside from demons appearing everywhere. They formed small warbands, captured the main stronghold of their own and on that their activity lessened. Everybody feared that it was just the calm before the storm. Cultists, well their survivors at least, decided that following the teachings of Ermin and Legda was pointless since they didn't save them from demons. So they created a new cult, Cult of the Voice. Their 3 leaders better known among ordinary people and cultist as Knight, Priestess and Mage led them into holy war against everyone and everything that denied their teachers. So their situation became even worse. Instead of demons popping everywhere, they now had organized small armies, and judging by their action they waited for Big Boss to unite in one. And instead of crazy but armless fanatics who belly even into their charms and prayers that were easily countered, they now dealt with heavily armed experienced army, one of the main goals of which they were. He sat in the garden and looked at the sky. At times like this he really considered smoking. Hand in black glove gave him a cigarette. Thanks, and a bit of fire please. Small fire danced in the black hand. Rodolphe taking smoke into his lungs. And I thought I taught you better than taking something from the hands of others and smoking cigarettes filled with God knows what. Cigarette fell on earth. Rodolphe slowly turned to his left. Ketch looked at him from under his hood. My foolish apprentice. It's good to see you. Camp of the Cult of the Voice. Priestess looked at her companions. Mage was silent as always. Knight was thirsting for action. She remembered how they started. Patriarchs of the cult hindered their progress. Denied their magic and cleric powers. In a way, demonic invasion was a blessing in disguise, now united. They will destroy all opposing fractions, create the new country. Now all pieces were in the right places. All dark mages were in one place. After their victory over demonic forces, dark mages will be turned into scapegoats. She smiled. Like all graduates of holy magic faculty, she never liked dark mages. However, her perfect world shattered when she heard roars from outside. She and her friends got out from the tent. He stood before them, several meters tall, covered in dark armor, mighty hooves blooded from the bodies of cultists stomped to dust, blade in his arm burned with unholy fire. Run, run away, little pests. Craw, eyelash, the burner will find you and feast on your souls eventually. Demon didn't even budge when giant blade of the night hit his armored knee. Hove just send him flying. Bolt of lightning hit the demon head on and blinded everyone on the battlefield for a minute. However, demon covered himself with his dark wings, thus protecting his head and torso. He raised his rig. Hand and orb of hellfire started to burn in it. Craw, eyelash threw it into the mage's direction. Smoke covered the position of the mage. Seconds later, green light shone from the center of the smoke cloud. Priestess managed to protect her partner. Knight appeared near them seconds later, clearing his armor from different debris. This time they attacked together. Mage get attention of the demon, while Priestess enchanted the knight. Kreelish focused his attention on the mage mainly, so he missed the attack from the knight. Filled with holy power, shining like a morning star, Knight jumped into the air. Surpassing any humanly possible limits and holding his sword over his head, he with large swing, crashed him on the demon's head. From the impact, Kreelish was sent backwards. His head, covered in smoke, seemed to be destroyed. Bam! Something heavy fall on the earth. Splash! With strange sound everyone saw how Knight's body was pierced by the dark blade. Smoke cleared. Kreelish was still alive, though missing one of his horns. That was the sound everyone heard. Demon got his weapon from the dead body of his enemy. Priestess fell to her knees, devastated by death of her long-time comrade. Mage, however, prepared make his enemies pay for his life. Kreelish looked at them for a minute and raised his hand. Countless small flying demons covered the skies like a black veil. They fall on leaders of the cult. Like hungry vultures. Agonizing screams were music to Demon's ears. He turned his back to the bloody feast of his soldiers. There were many things to do and destroy, but two problems were dealt with. Cult of the Voice didn't exist anymore. And his army wasn't hungry anymore. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.